Chapter 1490. 60,000 years old. The saint blinked. Really? Mu Niannian said seriously, Of course. However, I can give you a skewer. With that, she took out a skewer of candied haws and handed it to the saint. The saint hesitated for a moment before taking the candied haws. She licked it gently. It was a little sweet and sour, but there was no spiritual energy or energy. She looked at Mu Niannian and asked, Why doesn't this thing have any energy or spiritual energy? Niannian blinked, feeling a little awkward. How was she going to fool him? Fortunately, the saint did not continue to ask this question. She licked it again and said, This thing is sour and sweet. There's an indescribable feeling when you lick it. Mu Niannian smiled and said, Delicious, right? The saint nodded. Indeed. With that, she glanced at Mu Niannian and said, I can't take it from you for free. When she spoke up to hear, she opened her palm to reveal a pure white spirit fruit. As soon as it appeared, a wave of pure spiritual energy instantly spread out from her palm. Niannian blinked. This is, the saint said, my clan's sacred fruit. It blooms every 10,000 years and bears fruit every 10,000 years. After eating, it can cleanse the marrow and nourish the limbs and bones. Most importantly, it tastes good and delicious. Niannian looked at the saint. Is it for me? The saint nodded. Yes. Niannian smiled and said, Actually, this candied haw isn't that precious. The saint nodded. I know. This thing should be some snacks of this era, right? Niannian nodded. Yes. The saint smiled slightly. No matter what, I ate your candied haw and I don't like to owe others, so you can keep it. Niannian shook her head. You have your principles and I have mine. Just give me a skewer of candied haw in the future. The saint thought for a moment and said, That's fine too. Niannian smiled and said, Let's talk about that woman. Are you interested? The saint nodded. Yes. Niannian smiled and said, You already know the truth. What are you going to do now? The saint shook his head. I don't know how strong she is, and I don't know what she will do next. As she said that, she looked at Mu Niannian. Because you're affected by the disaster constitution, you can't attack openly, right? Niannian nodded. Yes. The divine envoy said softly, Then things will be a bit tricky. Niannian said, If I'm not wrong, she should have a backup plan, but we don't know what this backup plan is for now. Most importantly, you've already seen through her scheme. I'm worried that she has already anticipated this and has a backup plan. The saint nodded slightly. That's what I'm worried about. As she spoke, she shook her head. I wanted to talk to her, but she didn't want to. Niannian blinked. Why don't we join forces? The saint was silent. Niannian asked, Are you worried about the body of disaster? The sage nodded. Yes. Niannian smiled and said, She killed many of your people. The saint looked at Niannian. But if we continue to be enemies with her without knowing her true strength, we might lose more people. Moreover, her real intention is to target you. My clan doesn't want to get involved in this mess for now. Niannian nodded. I understand. However, you guys still have to be careful. She probably won't let this go. The saint nodded. Thank you for the reminder. As she said that, she licked the candied fruit and said, I still have something to do. We'll talk another day. With that, she turned and left. Niannian looked at the saint in the distance and remained silent. What will that woman do next? Somewhere in the starry sky, Yi Xian was flying on his sword. He didn't know where he was going because he was following the map. Miss Ding. He was also curious about this Miss Ding. The tavern owner had asked him to look for her. She should be able to restrain that woman, right? At this moment, the space not far away from him suddenly trembled. Yi Xian frowned slightly and clenched his right hand tightly. He clenched the sword in his hand because he felt a murderous intent. A murderous intent that came out of nowhere. At this moment, the murderous intent suddenly disappeared. The next moment, the space split open and a woman walked out. It was the mysterious woman from the sacred land. Yi Xian looked at the woman in silence. The woman said with a smile, Are you going to look for help? Yi Xian hurriedly shook his head. I'm just strolling around. The woman laughed and said, I like to see you lie with your eyes wide open. It's really interesting. Yi Xian was speechless. The woman said with a smile, Go back. Yi Xian looked at the woman. Are you afraid that I'll look for that person? The woman shook her head. I'm not afraid because she can't do anything to me. However, with her around, it'll be a little troublesome to carry out many of my plans because she knows me better than Miss Nian and knows more than Miss Nian. Yi Xian was silent. The woman looked at Yi Xian and said with a smile, Are you going back yourself, or do you want me to beat you up? Yi Xian looked at the woman. How about a spar? The woman said with a smile, Are you serious? Yi Xian nodded. I'm serious. It's a spar, the kind where we stop when it's appropriate. The woman laughed. Stop when it's appropriate. Since you want to know my strength, then come. Yi Xian suddenly disappeared from the spot. The space in front of the woman suddenly tore open and a sword beam appeared an inch away from the woman's eyebrows. Instant kill sword. Extreme instant kill sword. However, such a fast sword was caught by 2 fingers. The woman held onto Yi Xian's sword and smiled. A very fast sword. However, even Tingyun can't do anything to me with this sword, let alone you. As she said that, her fingers trembled slightly. Boom! Yi Xian and his sword were sent flying hundreds of feet away. The woman looked at Yi Xian. Again! Yi Xian looked at the woman. The next moment, he suddenly appeared in front of the woman. Immediately after, 4 types of domains enveloped the woman. At the same time, he held the sword with both hands and slashed forward. He used all his strength in this sword. Of course, it lacked the crazy demon bloodline power. Even so, the power of this sword was enough to destroy heaven and earth. However, even with the support of 4 types of domains, this sword was still caught by the woman's 2 fingers. The woman's 2 fingers trembled slightly. Boom! Yi Xian's 4 types of domains were directly shattered. At the same time, he was sent flying hundreds of feet away. Yi Xian looked at the sword in his hand in silence. He was crushed. This woman's strength was far above his. Even if he used the power of faith, he might not be able to do anything to this woman. The woman sized up Yi Xian. 4 types of domains. It's quite rare. However, it's a pity that your 4 types of domains are of a low level. You haven't grasped the true essence of domains. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Low level. The woman nodded and smiled. You can't really think that domains are so trashy, right? Yi Xian hesitated for a moment. Are domains very strong? The woman smiled. Of course, although you have 4 types of domains, you haven't grasped the essence of domains. Therefore, your power is mediocre. Yi Xian said in a low voice. How can I display the true power of this domain? The woman blinked. Are you asking me? Yi Xian, the woman smiled. I won't tell you. Otherwise, if you're too strong, you'll only make things difficult for me. Yi Xian said in a low voice. Are you afraid that I'll become stronger? The woman smiled. If you want to be a threat to me, you'll need at least 30 years, or even longer. Therefore, within 30 years, it doesn't matter how you jump around. However, I can't take the initiative to help you improve. Isn't that looking for trouble for myself? Yi Xian was silent. The woman smiled. Don't worry. I won't target the people around you. I won't use your relatives to threaten you. You can rest assured. Yi Xian glanced at the woman. In that case, I should be thanking you. The woman smiled. I can understand you. After all, it's a grudge of the older generation. You have to take the blame. But there's no other way. This matter has something to do with you. Moreover, I really can't beat the older generation. I can only beat you. Yi Xian looked calm. You're really straightforward. Speaking of which, I'm curious. Do you have some kind of blood feud with my mother? The woman smiled. Sort of. Yi Xian frowned. Your sisters? Is there such a big grudge? The woman shook her head. I can't tell you about this. Yi Xian was silent for a moment. He asked again. I heard from a senior that my grandfather was killed? The woman nodded. Yes. Yi Xian continued to ask. My father did it? The woman nodded. Your grandfather's death. I can only say that he deserved it. Although it's a bit unfilial to say this, he has done too many evil things. Moreover, when you were born, he wanted to kill you. Yi Xian was stunned. My grandfather wanted to kill me? The woman nodded. Yi Xian wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Damn it. It's not easy for me to live until now. The woman suddenly smiled. Let's go back. Yi Xian looked at the woman. Can we make an agreement? The woman smiled. Let's hear it. Yi Xian said in a deep voice. No matter what happens in the future, don't make a move on the fifth dimension. Don't make a move on the people around me. Of course, I won't make the fifth dimension and the people around you your enemy. This is a grudge between the two of us. What do you think? The woman smiled. Sure. However, I won't make a move on the fifth dimension. I won't show mercy to some people from the older generation who helped you. Yi Xian was silent for a moment. But after saying that, he turned around and left. Not long after Yi Xian left, a shadow quietly appeared behind the woman. The shadow gradually solidified. It was a woman wearing an emerald green dress. There were some leaf-like things on the woman's head. It looked quite strange. The woman who had just appeared stared at Yi Xian at the end of the starry sky in the distance. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. The mysterious woman suddenly smiled. You can't just kill him like that. Do you understand? Moreover, what's the point of killing him? After all, the person you want to kill is Tianming. The woman in the emerald green dress was expressionless. If I kill him, that woman will definitely be in pain, right? The mysterious woman smiled. And then? Then she will end you with a sword? Also, we can't kill him now. Don't underestimate that Miss Nian Nian. The woman in the emerald green dress was silent. The mysterious woman suddenly said, How's the contact going? The woman in the emerald green dress said solemnly, I've already contacted some people. However, most of them don't dare to participate in this matter because they fear Tianming. As she said that, she looked at the mysterious woman. How do you plan to deal with that man and that woman? The mysterious woman raised her head to look at the end of the starry sky and said softly, Our appearance is the best chance for this disaster cause. I don't believe it won't seize this opportunity. This disaster cause will definitely help us. If I'm not wrong, this disaster cause is about to make a move. In a certain part of the starry sky, a woman was walking slowly. It was the woman in the white dress. At that moment, the woman in the white dress suddenly stopped. The blood-red threads around her suddenly trembled violently. They surrounded the woman in the white dress like a huge ball, wrapping around her. However, it was very difficult for them to approach her. At the same time, the space in front of the woman suddenly turned blood-red. Within that blood-red space, there was a blood-red door. The woman in the white dress slowly closed her eyes. After a long while, she turned her head to take a look and sneered. You're playing with me? If it weren't for the fact that you're his mother, I would have ended you with my sword long ago. You don't even recognize your own son. What the hell? After saying that, she walked towards the blood-red door. P.S. Updated 1 minute late, one more chapter. Chapter 1491. As the plain-dressed woman walked towards the blood-red door, the starry sky around her had already turned blood-red. The entire starry sky was like a sea of blood. It was extremely strange. The plain-dressed woman walked slowly. Her expression was calm as the number of blood-red threads around her increased. When she reached the blood-red door, those blood-red threads had already covered the entire starry sky. If someone was here, they would definitely be scared to death. This was too terrifying. Karmic threads. Endless karmic threads of disaster. These karmic threads of disaster should be on Yi Xian's body. However, they had been shouldered by the plain-dressed woman. Of course, these karmic threads of disaster couldn't do anything to her. However, she couldn't sever them all because new threads would appear even if she severed them. Therefore, she didn't sever them all. The plain-dressed woman walked towards the blood-red door. Behind the door was a long blood-red path that seemed to have no end. When she entered the blood-red door, she suddenly turned her head to look at the karmic threads of disaster. She could see countless things from these karmic threads of disaster. Many of the karmic threads of disaster were related to her and the green-robed man. However, there were also some that didn't belong to her and the green-robed man. They belonged to Yixian himself. The degree of terror of these karmic threads of disaster wasn't any less than the ones she and the green-robed man had. Everyone had a past life, present life, and a future life. However, when a person's strength reached a certain level, they could sever their past life and future life. The green-robed man had done it. She had also done it. She wouldn't be tainted by any karma. She would be herself. However, Yixian couldn't do it. What was she really worried about? She was worried that Yixian's past life would determine his present life. Some powerful people could be reborn after reaching a certain level. Moreover, they could control their own rebirth. After such people were reborn, they would gradually regain their past life's memories. If they were strong enough in their present life, they might be able to maintain their current state. However, if they weren't strong enough, they might become their past life's self. Was there a difference? There was definitely a difference. Because once the past life's memories were restored, the person at that time would no longer be him. The reason why Yixian was still himself now was because she had blocked everything from his previous life. All the karmic threads from his previous life had basically landed on her. Of course, this was only her guess. She was not sure if it was Yixian's doing in his previous life, or if someone else was doing it, or if he was doing it himself, or if someone was helping him. Regardless of the reason, she was certain that Yixian's identity was not simple. In fact, it was becoming more and more complicated. Before this, what gave her a headache was that the disaster cause had been lurking in the dark, leaving her powerless. But now, the cause of disaster could no longer hold back. When she thought up to here, the woman in a plain dress put away the wooden doll, and then she turned around to glance below. At this glance, she directly saw the mysterious woman from the hallowed grounds, and she had an expressionless face. A bunch of ants. If it wasn't for the fact that you're his mother, I would have killed you a long time ago. Are you even worthy of showing off your intelligence? After saying that, she entered the blood-red door. In fact, the mysterious woman from the hallowed grounds did not know that the woman in a plain dress wanted to make a move against the disaster cause even more than she did. If the disaster cause did not make a move and kept hiding, she really could not do anything to it. But if the disaster cause made a move and let her know where the disaster cause was, then it would be different. After the woman in a plain dress disappeared, the blood-red door in the starry sky slowly became illusory. After a while it disappeared, and the surrounding starry sky also returned to normal. In the hallowed grounds, the mysterious woman in the bamboo house suddenly raised her head. After being silent for a long time, she softly said, "No, they might not have gone far. We have to wait a little longer. We can't rush." After saying that, she lowered her head and continued to read the ancient book. At this moment, the sacred master's voice came from outside the door. "Master, the people from the desolate north have already gone to the 5th dimension." The woman nodded. "I know." The sacred master hesitated for a moment, then said, "Will the desolate north ally with the 5th dimension?" The woman shook her head. "They wouldn't dare." The sacred master was somewhat puzzled. But the woman smiled and said, "They won't want to get involved in this mess." The sacred master said in a deep voice, "But if they know that this is a conspiracy of yours, master?" The woman shook her head and smiled. "As long as Yixian absorbs those souls, it will be fine. Those souls are evil causes. Although I forced him to absorb them, he still benefited from it. As for the desolate north, the sacred envoy doesn't represent the entire desolate north. Moreover, as long as there are enough benefits, the desolate north will kill Yixian." Although the sacred master still had some doubts in his heart, he didn't ask any more. Instead, he quietly retreated. Outside the bamboo forest, the sacred master sighed. He knew that his master must have some big plan. Recently, some extremely powerful auras appeared in the hallowed grounds. However, he didn't know who these people were, and he didn't dare to ask. Yixian returned to the 5th dimension. Somewhere in the cultivation room, Yixian opened his right hand and slowly clenched it. In an instant, a powerful force condensed in his right hand. Life Fist. He had to admit that the power of this life fist was very powerful. However, he knew that even if he burned 1,000 years of his life, the life fist would not be able to do anything to that woman. Yi Xian slowly loosened his right hand. This was the first time he felt so powerless. Although he had many enemies in the past, and they were all powerful, they were completely incomparable to this mysterious woman. Now, he felt that the woman was in control of everything. The biggest disadvantage was that the woman knew everything about him, while he didn't know much about her. As if he had thought of something, Yi Xian suddenly opened his hands, and a mysterious force suddenly overflowed from his body. The power of faith. At this moment, his power of faith was unprecedentedly powerful. This was because it could be said that he had gathered the power of faith of the entire fifth dimension. Moreover, this power of faith was very pure. It could be said that this power of faith would increase his strength to an extremely terrifying level. However, his use of the power of faith was very simple and crude. That was to use it to forcibly increase his own strength. Domain. Yi Xian suddenly displayed his sword domain. His sword domain directly enveloped the entire cultivation room. After the sword domain appeared, he crazily released his power of faith. Endless power of faith entered his sword domain. Excitement gradually appeared in Yi Xian's eyes, because he noticed that the sword domain was actually undergoing a transformation when the power of faith entered it. As if he'd thought of something, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Condense." As soon as he finished speaking, a sword suddenly appeared in his hand. It was an illusory sword. It was a sword condensed from the power of faith he'd condensed. Yi Xian held the sword in his hand and slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, his sword domain had undergone a tremendous transformation. The sword domain that was supported by the power of faith and the sword Daoist was countless times stronger than his original sword domain. Moreover, he was able to increase the effects of the power of faith to its limits within this sword domain. Moreover, he could even utilize this sword domain to improve the might of his sword Dao. The power of faith could strengthen the sword domain, and the sword domain could strengthen his sword Dao. Yi Xian clenched his fists tightly. He looked into the distance with the sword of faith in his hand. At this moment, he really wanted to slash out. The power of this sword would definitely destroy the world. However, this was the fifth dimension. Naturally, he couldn't use his sword. If he did, it would severely damage the origin of the fifth dimension. Yi Xian put away his sword and continued to ponder the power of faith and sword domain. He originally wanted to rush to the consolidation realm. However, he felt that he should stabilize his current realm. After all, he just reached the Dao attainment realm not long ago. As for his physical body, it hadn't been long since he'd reached the consolidation realm. It would be very difficult to improve it again. Since he couldn't improve his realm and physical body, he would improve his sword Dao and sword domain. Especially the sword domain. He didn't know when it started, but he rarely used it. Against ordinary enemies, he didn't even need to use the sword domain. He could instantly kill them with one strike. However, against some enemies, the sword domain was completely useless. For example, against that mysterious woman, the sword domain was completely useless. And that woman's words made him understand that it wasn't that the sword domain was weak, but that he hadn't developed it yet. In the following time, Yi Xian began to study the sword domain and the power of faith. Not only that, but he also studied the sword of instant death. With the blessing of the sword domain and the power of faith, the power of the sword of instant death could also be greatly enhanced. Especially in the space covered by the sword domain, the speed of the sword of instant death was already indescribable. It could be said that the speed was so fast that even he couldn't resist it. The power of faith and sword domain allowed Yi Xian to discover a new continent. In the blink of an eye, 1 month passed. During this month, Yi Xian hid in the cultivation room every day. As for the matters of the fifth dimension, he was relieved that Bai Dizzy and the others were handling it. Moreover, Bai Dizzy and the others didn't disturb him. Apart from cultivating, Yi Xian had been reading books for the past month. He read the ancient books that Nian Nian had collected. Not only that, he also asked Bai Dizzy to collect all the books related to the sword path in the fifth dimension, especially those from the sword sect. Just as the white-robed Qing said, his current sword path had reached its end. He could only walk the next path by himself. However, if he wanted to walk his own path, learning was indispensable. He wanted to improve his attainments in the sword Dao to the next level. During this time, there was no movement from the sacred domain. On this day, the sacred master came to the bamboo house. The sacred master glanced inside the bamboo house and saw that there were 2 women inside. The sacred master bowed slightly. Master, that Yi Xian seems to be cultivating crazily. The mysterious woman said with a smile, "Let him be." The sacred master hesitated for a moment and then said, "Master, aren't you worried?" The mysterious woman said, "You can leave." The sacred master didn't dare to say anything else and immediately left. Inside the bamboo house, the mysterious woman looked at the woman in front of her. The woman was wearing an emerald green dress and there were a few broken leaves in her hair. The mysterious woman said with a smile, "Tree Boundless, you are too anxious." Tree Boundless' expression was cold. "She has already left. Are you still not going to act?" The mysterious woman shook her head. "Not enough, because I can still feel a trace of her aura." Tree Boundless suddenly asked, "What if she comes back?" The mysterious woman was silent. Tree Boundless looked at the woman. "You have thought about this problem, right?" The mysterious woman said softly, "She will not come back." Tree Boundless frowned slightly. "But," the mysterious woman said with a smile, "in her eyes, you and I are both ants." Chapter 1492. Tree Boundless was silent. How strong was that woman? She had personally experienced it. So strong that it made people feel despair. In this world, who could suppress the plain-dressed woman? No one. Even the green-robed man could only fight against the plain-dressed woman, but if the plain-dressed woman went crazy, the green-robed man could not stop her. In the eyes of that woman, apart from a few people, who was not an ant. In front of Tree Boundless, the mysterious woman suddenly smiled and said, "Of course, if she comes back, it is also a good thing." Tree Boundless looked at the mysterious woman and asked, "What do you mean?" The mysterious woman smiled and said, "The reason why Yi Xian can live so comfortably now is because she is at the front. If she returns to Yi Xian's side, who will be at the front? Of course, she can always stay by Yi Xian's side, but if she stays by Yi Xian's side, Yi Xian will never be able to grow. The path of the great Tao is walked by oneself. This is also the reason why she left Yi Xian, because she wants Yi Xian to grow on his own." Saying that, she shook her head and smiled. In her heart, the enemies of this universe, including us, are all Yi Xian's whetstones. Tree Boundless' expression was somewhat cold. "She is so confident." The mysterious woman said softly, "She is indeed very confident, but she has the strength." Saying that, she turned to look at the horizon. "I hope that the cause of disaster is not so weak, otherwise, how can others play with it?" Tree Boundless asked, "In your opinion, does the cause of disaster have a chance of winning?" The mysterious woman nodded, "Yes." Tree Boundless asked, "Why do you think so?" The mysterious woman said softly, "That's because the 2 of them weren't able to stop this disaster cause back then. You have to understand that whether it's the azure-clothed man or the plain-dressed woman, they can only destroy, but they can't create. This disaster cause is far, far too deep. Most importantly, if the source of this cause of disaster is Yi Xian himself, then this matter will be too interesting. At that time, should she kill or not? The reason why she hasn't forcefully cut off the cause of calamity on Yi Xian is also because of this." Tree Boundless asked solemnly, "What do you plan to do next?" The mysterious woman raised the teacup and took a light sip, and then she said softly, "Wait." Tree Boundless frowned. "How much longer do we have to wait?" The mysterious woman smiled and said, "We've waited for so many years. There's no need to rush, right?" Tree Boundless was silent. The mysterious woman suddenly asked, "How's the contact?" Tree Boundless said calmly, "Your seduction worked. More and more people join us. However, you have to remember one thing. If that woman or that man comes back, everything we've done will be meaningless." The mysterious woman nodded, Even if that man wanted to come back, he wouldn't be able to do so immediately. What we really need to be careful of is slaughtering them. Tree Boundless nodded. As long as that woman doesn't come back. At this point, she suddenly looked at the mysterious woman. By the way, what level have you reached? Why can't I sense your realm? The mysterious woman smiled slightly. We're not enemies, you don't need to worry. Tree Boundless said calmly, I'm just curious. The mysterious woman smiled and said, a little higher than you think. Tree Boundless frowned slightly, but she didn't ask any more questions. At this time, the mysterious woman suddenly said, we have to be careful of someone. Tree Boundless asked, who? The mysterious woman dipped her finger into the tea, and then wrote a name on the table. Tree Boundless frowned slightly. He's here. The mysterious woman nodded. He should be here. Tree Boundless said, I'll deal with him. The mysterious woman smiled and said, no, you have to deal with something else. Tree Boundless looked at the mysterious woman. Tell me your plan. The mysterious woman said softly, when that woman is a little further away, when I can't sense her, we'll make the disaster cause on Yi Xian materialize. At that time, besides the 3 swords, whoever helps him will suffer the wrath of heaven. Tree Boundless said, all right. Saying so, she stood up and left. The mysterious woman looked at the teacup in front of her, and after a long time, she said softly, even if I'm an ant trying to shake a tree, I still want to try. Saying so, she took out a white silk handkerchief, and on the handkerchief, there was a small footprint. Looking at the handkerchief in her hand, a trace of pain flashed in her eyes. Why should you die? Because he has an invincible little sister? Don't worry, I'll make him pay the price. Those were her son's footprints. However, she had never even seen her son's face. That was because the calamity had descended upon her, and her soul had almost been destroyed. When she had woken up, only one of her 2 children was left. No, at that time, there was another person, and that was Tian Ming. After recalling the past, the killing intent in the mysterious woman's eyes became more and more ferocious. In the 5-dimensional universe, Yi Xian didn't pay attention to the outside world, and every day, he only focused on cultivating. The current him had perfectly fused the sword domain and the power of faith. The power of faith supported the sword domain, and the sword domain supported the way of the sword. With the perfect combination of the 2 powers, it could be said that his current sword domain was completely different from before. Apart from that, he had also developed the blood domain. The combination of bloodline power and the blood domain. He found that his bloodline power could greatly increase his blood domain, and it could make his blood reach a qualitative change. The most important thing in the blood domain was blood. Before this, he had actually neglected this problem. The blood domain, of course, needed blood. The only pity was that he couldn't activate the crazy demon bloodline, because the crazy demon bloodline's destructive power was stronger than the immortal bloodline. If the crazy demon bloodline was combined with the blood domain, the power of the blood domain would become even stronger. Apart from that, he found that when he used the blood domain, the more blood there was, the stronger the blood domain would become. In addition, the death domain needed death chi. A death domain with death chi and a death domain without death chi were 2 completely different domains. However, the power of the death domain couldn't be compared to the blood domain and the sword domain, because he didn't have too much death chi. Unless he killed too many people and used millions of Yin spirits and death chi to stabilize the domain. However, this situation was very rare. As for the dark domain, he found that the power of the dark domain would be greatly enhanced in the shattered space. He could use all kinds of dark matter to strengthen the dark domain. It should be said that when he used the dark domain, he could use the dark domain to forcibly absorb all the dark matter energy in the surroundings. How much dark matter energy was there between heaven and earth? Especially in the starry sky, the dark matter energy could be said to be endless. In short, in the past month or so, Yi Xian had gained a lot, especially in the use of the 4 domains. In this aspect, he had improved a lot. Now, the 4 domains were no longer useless to him, but a great killer move. Inside the hall, Yi Xian and Xianxia sat facing each other. During this period of time, and Xianxia had always been with him, and the two of them were discussing. Moreover, he had already imparted life fist to Xianxia. What made him a little dumbfounded was that even if Xianxia didn't have a powerful body, she could still cultivate the life fist. However, her life fist was different from his. Moreover, she didn't burn her lifespan. Rather than saying that she cultivated the life fist, it would be better to say that she was drawing on the life fist. In this aspect of the martial Dao, Xianxia's talent was really too terrifying. Xianxia looked at Yixian. You want to change the life fist into the life sword? Yixian nodded, yes. I had this idea a long time ago. The life fist power is extremely strong. If it can be fused with my instant kill sword, then its power will definitely reach a very terrifying level. Xianxia said in a deep voice, difficult. Xianxia said in a deep voice, difficult. Yixian smiled, I know. What was the instant kill sword particular about? It was speed and that instant of explosive force. The life fist was also particular about explosive force. If these two types of explosive force could be fused together, then the might would absolutely be able to destroy the heavens and the earth. However, this was extremely difficult because the might of the life fist was too great, and the speed and strength of the instant kill sword had reached a limit. This wasn't a combination of strength and softness, but a fusion of strength and strength. So, the difficulty wasn't ordinary. Xianxia suddenly said, however, it isn't impossible. Yixian looked at Xianxia, what do you mean? Xianxia looked at Yixian, domain. Yixian was stunned when he heard this, and then he suddenly came to his senses, right? I can use my domain to suppress these two forces and prevent them from going out of control. Xianxia nodded, your faith energy combined with your sword domain should be able to suppress the formidable strength of these two martial techniques. Moreover, your body is sufficiently strong to be able to support these two forces. However, you have to pay attention to the problem after executing this sword strike. If you're directly paralyzed after executing this sword strike, then I feel that such a fusion wouldn't have much meaning. Moreover, after the fusion, if the speed of execution is unable to attain the speed of the instant kill sword, then it would be meaningless as well. Yixian fell silent. He knew what Xianxia meant. No matter if it was researching domains or sword techniques, their imaginary enemy was that mysterious woman. Simply speaking, if he were to face the mysterious woman, then he only had the chance to execute a single sword strike, and this sword strike didn't just have to be swift, it had to be strong as well. In other words, the current speed of the instant kill sword wasn't sufficient. Not only was its speed insufficient, its strength was far from sufficient. Moreover, if he were to fuse the life fist with the instant kill sword, then even if his strength was sufficient, it would be useless if his speed wasn't sufficient. Because he might be killed by the mysterious woman at the instant he executed his sword strike. That woman wasn't stupid, and if she sensed danger, then she would absolutely not give him the chance to execute his sword strike. Xianxia said, you can give it a try now. Yixian nodded, enter the pagoda. As he spoke, he and Xianxia entered the world prison pagoda. Only by cultivating in the pagoda would he be able to satisfy that mysterious woman. Within the world prison pagoda, Yixian stood silently, his right hand grasping the unparalleled sword. His lifespan began to burn, and at the instant he did so, a powerful force suddenly condensed in his right arm, the energy of lifespan. Yixian slowly closed his eyes, continuing to burn his lifespan. In just a moment, he had burned nearly 50 years of his lifespan, and at this moment, the sword in his hand began to tremble violently. Although he was constantly using the sword domain and faith energy to suppress it, this force was truly too strong, and he found it difficult to control. After a long time, Yixian suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Xianxia. I can't use my sword. Xianxia frowned. You can't use your sword? Yixian nodded, his expression solemn. The force is too strong, it has already surpassed my control. Xianxia fell silent. Yixian sighed softly, feeling slightly regretful, but he didn't intend to give up. If it was so easy to fuse, then it would be too much of a joke. Yixian began to slowly release the force. He decided to make it simpler and not burn so much of his lifespan. He would do it bit by bit. Although this would consume a little of his lifespan, if he could fuse it, then it would absolutely be worth it. While Yi Xian was cultivating, the space on the 9th floor suddenly trembled. Yi Xian and Xianxia, who were cultivating, suddenly raised their heads to look at the 9th floor. In the next moment, the two of them appeared on the 9th floor, and in the 9th floor, space suddenly split open and a black object floated out. When they saw this object, Yi Xian and Xianxia were stunned. P.S. Please praise me. Let me be lost in your praises. Chapter 1493. Pagoda. In front of the two of them was a xiaota. This xiaota was different from the world prison pagoda. This xiaota was emitting a purple light, and this purple light was somewhat similar to his purple aura. Yi Xian turned to look at Xianxia. Both of them had a trace of shock in their eyes. There was a xiaota in this pagoda? What was this? At this moment, that xiaota floated in front of Yi Xian. It bounced in front of Yi Xian, as if it was sizing up Yi Xian. Yi Xian hesitated and asked, "You are?" The xiaota suddenly laughed, "Xiaota." Yi Xian's mouth twitched. Damn, this xiaota could speak. Xiaota suddenly said, "You seem to be very confused?" Yi Xian sized up xiaota. "You are?" Xiaota laughed, "I am xiaota." Yi Xian's expression froze. This mother of asterisk her. At this moment, xiaota suddenly swayed from side to side, as if it was very happy. Yi Xian asked, "Xiaota, why are you in this pagoda?" Xiaota floated in front of Yi Xian and said with a smile, "Master placed me here, saying that I should assist you." Yi Xian blinked. "Assist me?" Xiaota nodded, "Yes." Yi Xian was a little confused. "Who is your master?" Xiaota said, "My master is my master." Yi Xian held his forehead. He was having a headache. At this moment, Xianxia suddenly asked, "What is your master called?" Xiaota laughed. "You want to know my master's identity?" Yi Xian nodded, "Yes." Xiaota suddenly bounced. "Is there any benefit?" "Benefits?" Yi Xian and Xianxia were both stunned. This pagoda wanted benefits? Xiaota suddenly said, "Of course there must be benefits. Why should I tell you if I won't give you any benefits?" Yi Xian said solemnly, "Didn't I ask you to assist me?" Xiaota stopped. "Who said that?" Yi Xian stared at Xiaota. "You said it yourself." Xiaota quickly shook his head. "No. I never said that. You must have heard wrong." Yi Xian was dumbfounded. Damn it, this guy actually didn't want to admit it? And Xiaota's expression was also somewhat odd. Why was this xiaota so flowery? Yi Xian suddenly asked, "What benefits do you want?" Xiaota chuckled. "I don't know either. You decide. As long as I like it, it's fine." Yi Xian thought for a moment, then said with a smile, "I feel that you definitely won't be interested in ordinary treasures, right?" Small Tower hurriedly nodded. "Of course, you can't use trash to trick me. Let me tell you, I know several hundred ways to trick people. Trying to trick me in front of me, you will only be asking to be humiliated." Yi Xian. At this moment, a sword suddenly flew in front of Yi Xian. Sword Spirit. Yi Xian was just about to speak when Sword Spirit directly slashed at Xiaota. Bang. Xiaota trembled violently and directly jumped out. Yi Xian. In the distance, Xiaota wailed, "Wow, Sister Sword Spirit, you're here too." The Sword Spirit flew back in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian opened his palm and the Sword Spirit landed in his hand. In the distance, Xiaota was shivering. Yi Xian glanced at Xiaota. This Xiaota was afraid of the Sword Spirit. Yi Xian held his sword and walked in front of Xiaota. Xiaota hurriedly said, "You don't mess around. Violence is useless. Let's talk this out." The corner of Yi Xian's mouth twitched. This guy was quite flexible. Yi Xian, he smiled and said, "I won't mess around. Like, I want to ask you some questions. Can you answer me?" Xiaota was silent. The little friend suddenly held the sword and lightly patted his palm. At this moment, Xiaota hurriedly said, "Master is Sister Sword Spirit's master." Yi Xian was slightly stunned. He looked at the sword in his hand and understood. This Xiaota's master was the green-robed man. The green-robed man left for him was Xiaota? Yi Xian collected his thoughts and continued to ask, "Your master left you for me?" Xiaota nodded but quickly shook his head. The corner of Yi Xian's mouth twitched. "What do you mean?" Pagoda stuttered. Yi Xian smiled and said, "If you want to leave, I won't stop you." Xiaota suddenly jumped up. "Really?" Yi Xian nodded. Xiaota turned and ran. Yi Xian. At this moment, a sword suddenly blocked in front of him. It was the sword spirit. The sword spirit fiercely slashed at Xiaota. Xiaota hurriedly dodged and begged, "Sister sword spirit, don't hit me. Don't hit me. I won't leave. I really won't leave. I will be honest." Yi Xian. After slashing for a long time, the sword spirit stopped. Xiaota hid in a corner and looked a little pitiful. Yi Xian smiled and said, "Can we have a good talk?" Xiaota felt a little wronged and said, "You asked me to leave. I didn't leave on my own." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "What did your master leave you for me to do?" Xiaota said, "To help you." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "To help me?" Xiaota nodded. "Yes." Yi Xian was a little curious. "What can you help me with?" Xiaota suddenly jumped up. "I can help you a lot." Yi Xian asked, "For example?" Xiaota was speechless. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "It seems that you are a mascot. You can play by yourself. We are leaving." After saying that, he and Xianxia were about to leave. At this moment, Xiaota suddenly trembled. In the next moment, countless purple qi appeared in the tower. Yi Xian was stunned. He glanced at the purple qi and was a little shocked. This purple qi was so pure. At this moment, Xiaota suddenly said, "This is primordial purple qi. It is only inferior to Little White's purple qi. If you use my purple qi to cultivate, your cultivation speed can increase by more than several times. In addition, my purple qi also has a powerful recovery ability." Yi Xian and Xianxia looked at each other. Both of their eyes were filled with shock. This purple qi was not ordinary purple qi. If they used it to cultivate, it shouldn't be difficult for them to reach the consolidation realm. At this moment, Xiaota said again, "I still have some treasures." Yi Xian hurriedly asked, "What treasures?" Xiaota jumped up and down. He was very proud. Many treasures. Yi Xian. At this moment, Xianxia suddenly said, "Can you take it out for me to see?" Xiaota hurriedly shook his head. "I should not show my wealth. If I take it out, you will be thinking about it." Yi Xian was a little speechless. "Aren't we on the same side? Why are you still guarding against us?" Xiaota said, "Even blood brothers should settle accounts clearly." Yi Xian. Xiaota suddenly said, "Your strength is a little weak. I suggest you increase your strength. Otherwise, you will be in great danger." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Danger?" Xiaota nodded. "I can feel that something bad is about to happen. You better increase your strength quickly. Increase your strength." Yi Xian fell silent. Could it be that woman is about to make a move? During this period of time, that woman has not made a move. This is very abnormal. At this moment, Xiaota suddenly said, "Can I go out and play?" Yi Xian glanced at Xiaota. Xiaota giggled. "I won't run around. I will come back after playing for a while." As he said this, an ancient book suddenly floated in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian asked, "This is?" Xiaota hurriedly said, "Sword drawing technique. This is the sword drawing technique that Master improved. Take it and cultivate." Sword drawing technique. Yi Xian took the ancient book. He opened it and very quickly, his expression became solemn. This sword drawing technique was very different from the one that the green-clothed man gave him. Yi Xian kept the ancient book and looked at Xiaota. "Go and play." Xiaota suddenly cheered. He directly turned into a purple light and disappeared in the prison pagoda. Inside the prison pagoda, Yi Xian looked at the ancient book in front of him and said softly, "This sword skill is suitable for frontal attacks. Moreover, this sword skill focuses on breaking the surface with a single point. It has the meaning of, one sword breaks 10,000 techniques. It can be used for both offense and defense." Xianxia said, "You should first fuse your instant death sword with life fist." Yi Xian nodded. He still wanted to fuse Life Fist with Instant Death Sword first. As for this sword drawing technique, it is not that difficult to cultivate. He can temporarily take it slow. In the following time, Yi Xian began to study the Instant Death Sword and Life Fist. And Lanxiu did not leave and continued to help in the pagoda. As for that Xiao Ta, Yi Xian was particularly speechless towards this Xiao Ta. Because this Xiao Ta has already gone somewhere. But fortunately, the sword spirit chased after him. Northern Wilderness. In front of the stone tablet, the divine envoy sat cross-legged on the ground. Behind her were Gu Yao and the others. At this moment, there are more people than before. There are more than 100 people. The aura of these people, including themselves, is much stronger than before. Obviously, the long period of hibernation has caused their strength to decline. Now, their strength is slowly recovering to the peak. At this moment, the divine envoy suddenly opened her eyes. A woman suddenly appeared in front of her. It is the mysterious woman from the sacred ground. Seeing the mysterious woman, Gu Yao and the others behind the divine envoy suddenly became gloomy. It is this woman again. The mysterious woman looked at the divine envoy and said with a smile, "We meet again." The divine envoy asked, "What is it?" The mysterious woman nodded, "I want to talk to you about a great opportunity. I wonder if you are interested?" The divine envoy said, "Cooperate with you to deal with that young Yi Xian?" The mysterious woman said with a smile, "Smart. You guessed it right." The divine envoy shook her head, "That young man is not simple. The people behind him are not simple either. We will not cooperate with you." The mysterious woman blinked. "Can you represent the entire northern wilderness?" The divine envoy said, "Now I can." Saying so, she looked at the mysterious woman, "We will not be used by you." The mysterious woman said with a smile, "That is because there are not enough benefits." The divine envoy frowned, "Even if you give us benefits, we will not team up with you." The mysterious woman smirked, "That may not be true." Saying so, she opened her palm and a black box appeared in her hand. She opened the box. When she saw the item in the black box, her eyes suddenly narrowed. "You?" The mysterious woman smiled and did not speak. Instead, she turned to look at the stone tablet not far away. At this moment, a voice came from the stone tablet. "We can talk." Chapter 1494. Let's talk. Hearing the voice, the mysterious woman smiled. "Then let's talk." Not far away, the holy messenger was silent. Her gaze was fixed on the box in the mysterious woman's hand. At this moment, her heart was like a raging storm, and she was extremely shocked. A voice came from the stone tablet. "How did you get this item?" The mysterious woman blinked and smiled. "I picked it up." The voice from the stone tablet fell silent. "Picked it up?" No one believed it. The mysterious woman suddenly smiled. "I don't like to talk nonsense, so I'll be straightforward. You guys help me deal with Yi Xian. To be exact, you just need to help me stall 3 people. Once you stall them, this thing will be yours." The voice from the stone tablet said, "That young man's background is not simple." The mysterious woman smiled. "I'm not simple either." The voice was silent. The mysterious woman smiled. "Take your time to think about it." Then she turned and left. The voice from the stone tablet suddenly said, "I agree." The mysterious woman smiled. "Wait for my notice." After saying that, she disappeared. The saint walked to the stone tablet and whispered, "Supreme Goddess, that young man has the constitution of adversity. He's not simple." "This," the voice from the stone tablet said again, "that's the Black Heaven and Earth Temple. We can't refuse her." The saint fell silent. The Black Heaven and Earth Temple. The number 1 treasure of the prehistoric era. The true number 1 treasure came from before the birth of this universe. It was an artifact but not an artifact. It existed forever and was indestructible. There were 6 ancient characters inside: Tao, life, death, kindness, evil, and calamity. Apart from that, the number 1 treasure of the Northern Wilderness tribe, the Northern Wilderness martial scripture, came from the Black Heaven and Earth Temple. There were countless secrets in the Black Heaven and Earth Temple. The Black Heaven and Earth Temple might contain an unknown era's inheritance, civilization, and treasures. The Black Heaven and Earth Temple used to be in the hands of the Northern Wilderness tribe. But then the prehistoric era changed and the item disappeared. But now, it had appeared again. The saint asked softly, "Why is that item in her hands?" The Supreme Goddess said, "I don't know. However, based on the current situation, she probably doesn't know exactly what this item is. Otherwise, she would definitely not use this item to make a trade." The Saint Envoy said in a low voice, "Exalted deity, it's not normal for this woman to have this item. Moreover, that young man Yi Xian has a special background. If our clan becomes enemies with him, then I'm afraid we'll be tainted with some bad karma, and it might even bring about a calamity to our clan." The supreme deity in the stone tablet was silent. The divine envoy continued, "The temple of heaven and earth is naturally important to our tribe. However, have you ever thought about how powerful and intelligent this woman is? She is trying to sow discord and use all kinds of tricks to make us become enemies with that young Master Yi. What does this mean? It meant that she was afraid of the person behind that young man. I've also investigated this person. There's an extremely powerful expert following her, and there are also several mysterious women behind her. These people are not simple." Then she looked at the stone tablet. "This woman wants us to be cannon fodder." Inside the stone tablet, the great deity suddenly said, "I want to see this person." The divine envoy said, "Should I invite him?" The exalted deity said, "There's no need, I'll meet him personally." The divine envoy was stunned for a moment before nodding. "All right." Sacred ground, inside the bamboo house. After the mysterious woman returned to the bamboo house, she placed the black box on the bamboo table. In front of the mysterious woman was Tree Boundless. Tree Boundless looked at the black box. "Does the Northern Wilderness care about this box?" The mysterious woman smiled. "They care about the item inside the box." Tree Boundless asked, "What is it?" The mysterious woman smiled. "A very ancient item." Tree Boundless looked at the mysterious woman. "You're not interested?" The mysterious woman shook her head. "At my level, other treasures or martial arts inheritances are no longer attractive to me." Tree Boundless looked at the black box curiously. "How did you get this item?" The mysterious woman smiled. "That little white guy touched it and I traded it for 2 candied haws." Hearing that, Tree Boundless' expression turned strange. That little white guy. Of course, she knew who the mysterious woman was talking about. She knew that the little white guy was playful and gluttonous, but she did not expect that he would sell such a precious item for 2 candied haws. What a wastrel! Tree Boundless shook his head. Suddenly, the mysterious woman said, "I'm going out for a while." Tree Boundless looked at the mysterious woman. "Are you going to make a move?" The mysterious woman shook her head. "Wait until that woman is far away." Tree Boundless nodded. "That's true. If that woman came back, everything they had done would be for naught. No one could stop that woman head-on." As if thinking of something, Tree Boundless suddenly asked, "Yi Xian seems to be cultivating." The mysterious woman smiled. "Let him cultivate. After all, we don't have much time left." She put away the black box and left. Tree Boundless suddenly asked, "Do you look down on him that much?" The mysterious woman stopped and shook her head. "It's not that I look down on him. On the contrary, I admire him. Among my peers, there are not many who can compare to him. But we are from the same generation as his father. If we can't even beat him, then we have lived all these years in vain." Having said that, she opened the bamboo door and walked out. Inside the hall, Tree Boundless was silent. At that moment, she thought of that woman again. That woman in a plain dress. That woman who had suppressed countless eras. In front of that woman, countless giants of the past paled in fear. In the 5-dimensional universe, inside the World Prison Pagoda, Yi Xian sat on the 9th floor. His eyes were closed, and his sword domain enveloped the entire World Prison Pagoda. In front of him was the unparalleled sword. After an unknown amount of time, Yixian once again grasped the unparalleled sword. Bang! A powerful force suddenly shook the pagoda, causing the surrounding walls to tremble. Yixian tightly gripped the unparalleled sword. Within his right hand was an endless amount of lifespan. This time, he burned 50 years of his lifespan. Yixian stared at the unparalleled sword in his hand. Although the sword domain was suppressing him, the power contained within the sword was too great. At this moment, the 9th floor was shaking violently. If not for the Tao laws suppressing him, this pagoda would not have been able to withstand his current strength. His current strength was already a bit abnormal. On the side, Xianxia looked at Yixian. "Can you use the sword?" Yixian nodded. "I can now." As he spoke, he slowly raised the unparalleled sword. This sword, he could swing it. However, the speed was not enough. The power of this sword far exceeded the power of the instant death sword. It could be said to be several times more powerful. However, the speed was definitely not as fast as the instant death sword. At this moment, Xianxia suddenly said, "There are pros and cons." Yixian nodded. The power and speed of the instant death sword had actually reached the limit of his physical body. If the instant death sword fused with his life fist, unless his physical body reached the god realm, it would be very difficult for him to increase his speed. Yixian sighed softly and began to slowly release the power within the sword. During this period of time, in order to fuse the life fist with the instant death sword, he had burned more than 200 years of his lifespan. However, he still could not achieve his ideal state. This was because the unparalleled sword could no longer increase his speed. This meant that he had truly reached his own limit. On the other hand, without that speed, this sword of his would absolutely not be able to pose any threat to that woman. She wouldn't just stand there and let him slash her. Meanwhile, Xianxia spoke in a light voice, "Just do your best." Yixian gazed at Xianxia and smiled, "Right? Just do your best. If you really can't defeat her, then it can't be helped." Xianxia nodded. "This sword of yours has no chance of winning against that woman. However, there aren't many in this world that can withstand this sword of yours." The might of the life fist combined with the instant death sword was extraordinarily terrifying when two explosive martial techniques were fused. Yixian nodded. He glanced at the unparalleled sword in his hand and said, "This new sword technique shall be called the life sword." The life sword, a sword strike that burned one's lifespan. Yixian put the unparalleled sword away, and then he withdrew the ancient scroll that Xiao had given him. The sword drawing technique. Yixian flipped open the scroll, and he gazed at it for a long time before he spoke in a light voice. "What an amazing sword drawing technique." Xianxia walked over to Yixian, glanced at it, and said softly, "It really is extraordinary." Yixian shook his head and laughed bitterly. "I think I need to consolidate my strength for a while. I've been busy dealing with those enemies every single day, and I've neglected my own sword Dao." His sword Dao hadn't improved in a very, very long time. His improvement was mainly in the aspect of his body, and he'd relied on external forces to improve his body. As for his sword Dao, it had stagnated for a very long time. Moreover, no one could help him in his future path of the sword Dao. Because he'd already walked his own path, and what he had to do now was continue walking down it and not stay where he was. At this moment, he recalled what the white-robed Qing had said. The unrestrained sword heart. Actually, he'd always been unable to truly attain the unrestrained sword heart because there were truly too many restraints in his heart. In the beginning, it was only Ling, then it was Big Sister Nian, and now it was the entire fifth dimension. There were more and more restraints, and they were the kind that couldn't be cut off. As for the swordsman's sword, the fewer restraints there were, the faster and sharper his sword would be. As he thought of this, Yixian's brows suddenly furrowed. Was this really the case? A person must have faith in life. What was his faith? It was to protect the people by his side. Responsibility. If a man couldn't shoulder his responsibilities, could he still be considered a man? Restraints? To him, the entire fifth dimension was indeed a restraint, but it was also Yixian's responsibility. Since it was his responsibility, how could he talk about restraints? Being heartless and giving up everything, could he really attain the unrestrained sword heart? Perhaps he could, but for Yi Xian, it was impossible. It was like a person abandoning his parents, wife, and children. This kind of person was indeed very free, because he didn't have any burdens. He was alone and free. However, this kind of freedom wasn't what Yi Xian wanted. To him, what was the use of a sword? It wasn't to seek invincibility. Instead, it was to protect. As he thought of this, many people suddenly appeared in Yi Xian's mind. Yi Ling, and Lanxiu, Lian Wanli, Tuoba Yen, Shao Qi, Shao Dao, Arrow, Mo Yunqi, Shao Qi, everything in the fifth dimension, and Sister Nian. Scenes of the past flashed through Yi Xian's mind like lightning. There were all kinds of ups and downs. After a long time, Yi Xian suddenly looked at the sword in his hand and smiled. Qing'er, I understand what you mean by the unrestrained sword heart. The unrestrained sword heart doesn't mean abandoning everything, it doesn't mean being heartless or selfish. The unrestrained sword heart means doing things with a clear conscience, being a person with a clear conscience, and being free with a clear conscience. As he thought of this, the unparalleled sword in his hand suddenly trembled, and the sword's cry never stopped. Not only that, at this moment, all the swords in Yi Xian's body trembled, even the sword at the top of the pagoda trembled slightly, as if responding. P.S. Give me a ticket if you have one. 1 monthly ticket isn't much, you can't go to Singapore, 1 monthly ticket is nothing, anyone can afford it. Chapter 1495. Inside the pagoda, Yi Xian's eyes were closed. At that moment, he had entered a very strange state. Relaxed. He suddenly felt extremely relaxed. This was a feeling that he had never felt before. In the past, it was as if he had been imprisoned by shackles. There were shackles on his heart and thoughts, but now, those 2 shackles were gone. His thoughts were clear, and he felt unprecedentedly relaxed. At that moment, Lanxiu suddenly asked, Did you break through? Yi Xian opened his eyes and smiled. No, but I understand what true freedom is. As he said that, he looked at the supreme sword in his hand and chuckled. Previously, I was always shackled by myself, and my sword was also shackled by me. But it won't happen in the future. The supreme sword in Yi Xian's hand was still trembling as if it was responding. This sword originally did not have a spirit, and it was just a sword. Of course, this sword was very special. After all, it came from the Milky Way realm. But now, this sword had a spirit of its own. Yi Xian had bestowed it with a spirit of its own. The sword was extraordinary because of its master. The current Yi Xian already had the ability to change the sword. The breakthrough in his state of mind made Yi Xian look different. Previously, he was like a sword shackled by a scabbard. Although he was reserved, his hands and feet were tied, and he did not have the kind of momentum that could destroy thousands of enemies with one sword. But now, he was like an unsheathed sword. Not only did he show off his sharpness, but he also had a domineering sword aura that made people feel intimidated. At that moment, Lanxiu felt that Yi Xian was a swordsman. In fact, although Yi Xian was a swordsman, his combat strength was previously dependent on the power of his bloodline, his physical body, and the power of faith. It could be said that the reason why his combat strength was so strong was not because of his sword Dao. Apart from these few things, his combat strength was really not that great. Especially when he did not have a Dao body, his combat strength could be said to be greatly reduced. Could he easily kill a godly state powerhouse by relying on sword Dao alone? Of course not. Moreover, without the Dao physique, he could at most fight 1 or 2 god state experts, but if he had the Dao physique, even 10 god state experts wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Rather than a swordsman, it would be more accurate to say that he was a physique cultivator. Moreover, even though he'd taken a new path in the Dao of the sword, he hadn't taken it well. Because he hadn't gone far on this new path, and he'd remained stagnant. Now that he was enlightened, he was finally like a real swordsman. Confidence in the way of the sword. Of course, this was only the beginning. Yi Xian looked at the supreme sword in his hand and said with a smile, "This feeling is very wonderful. It's like the feeling when I first learned the sword." And Lanxiu suddenly said, "Congratulations." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. My path of the sword Dao is still very long. Although his mental state had broken through, he couldn't be arrogant at all. Because there were too many formidable swordsmen by his side. Not to mention Qing Er and the green-clothed man, he couldn't even compare to Ting Yun now. There was also Big Sister Nian, and Big Sister Nian was a formidable swordsman as well. And Lanxiu suddenly said, "Try executing the insta-kill sword now." Yi Xian looked at Lanxiu. "Let's go somewhere else." And Lanxiu nodded. Both of them directly vanished within the pagoda, and it wasn't long before they arrived in a deathly silent starry sky. The two of them were 300 m apart. Yi Xian looked at Lanxiu. "Watch out." At the instant he finished speaking, a strand of sword light suddenly arrived between Lanxiu's brows. However, a spear had suddenly been pressed against Yi Xian's chest. In the distance, Lanxiu shook her head. "I've lost." She was unable to resist this strike of Yi Xian's. Even though her spear was extremely swift, but Yi Xian had an advantage over her. Xian had an advantage over her, and that was her Daoist physique. Yi Xian's sword was able to kill her, but her spear was unable to kill Yi Xian. Compared to before, Yi Xian's sword had already undergone a tremendous change. If he utilized external forces like the energy of faith, then she would be even more unable to fight him. Yi Xian looked at the sword in his hand. His current insta-kill sword was too much faster than before. Most importantly, its might was much stronger than before as well. The breakthrough in his mental state this time had brought about a tremendous change to his sword Dao. At this moment, he finally felt that he was a swordsman and not a body refiner. As if he'd thought of something, Yi Xian suddenly looked at Lanxiu. "I'll defend if you attack me." As he spoke, he took out a sword sheath and placed the supreme sword into it. And Lanxiu understood what Yi Xian meant, and she immediately nodded. "All right." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly vanished on the spot, and a speck of cold light appeared in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian suddenly drew his sword and slashed. Sword drawing technique. An expanse of sword light suddenly erupted in front of Yi Xian, and that speck of cold light was instantly drowned out by this expanse of sword light. But in the next moment, that expanse of sword light was directly shattered. Bang! Yi Xian directly retreated explosively by 300 m. After he stopped, Yi Xian looked at Lanxiu. His sword-drawing technique utilized a single point to break through, whereas Lanxiu's spear strike utilized a single point to break through, and he hadn't gone all out. Yi Xian looked at Lanxiu. Again. Lanxiu nodded, and then she tapped the tip of her foot lightly. In the next moment, an afterimage flashed to arrive before Yi Xian. Yi Xian held the hilt of his sword with his right hand, and then he suddenly drew it. A sword howl shook the heavens and the earth. His sword descended. Rumble. Along with an explosion, Yi Xian's sword light was directly shattered. This time, Yi Xian retreated by over 1 kilometer. After he stopped, Yi Xian gazed at the sword in his hand and went silent. And Lanxiu didn't attack again. After a long time, Yi Xian said in a low voice, "I know what the problem is. Imposing aura." As he spoke, his eyes slowly closed. Imposing aura. A person's imposing aura was extremely important, and his sword-drawing technique lacked precisely such an imposing aura. In the past, he'd seen the green-clothed man execute this sword technique, and that time was in the world below. When the green-clothed man executed this sword technique, that strike seemed as if it intended to slash the heavens apart. When he thought of imposing aura, he thought of Qing Er's life and death decided with a single strike. Death is inevitable with this strike of mine. This sort of imposing aura was what he lacked the most. When he thought up to here, Yi Xian looked at Lanxiu. But in next to no time, he became slightly helpless. He wanted to be more ruthless, but how could he be ruthless towards Lanxiu? Should I slash him to death with this strike of mine? Towards Lanxiu, he seriously couldn't do it. Actually, Lanxiu didn't have that sort of killing aura when she attacked him with her spear either. On the contrary, she still held back strength and didn't dare to use her full strength. Two people sparring had advantages and disadvantages. Seeming to have thought of something, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Come, I'll bring you to find someone. Finished talking, he directly brought Xianxia along and vanished in the starry sky. Before long, the two people arrived at the Dao door again. The person who received Yixian and Xianxia was an old man. When he saw Yixian, that old man had a slight headache because the person who received Yixian the last time was him. Yixian looked at the old man and said with a smile, "Please inform third miss that I have something to look for her about." The old man hesitated and was just about to speak when Yixian suddenly said, "You want to say that third miss isn't here, right?" The old man was speechless. Yixian smiled and said, "Go tell third miss that I'm here. Yixian won't make it difficult for her." The old man was still hesitant. Right at this moment, a woman suddenly appeared in front of Yixian and Xianxia. It was the third miss. The third miss looked at Yixian. "How annoying." Yixian smiled and said, "Third miss, I trust you've been well since we last met." The third miss said indifferently, "Is something the matter?" Yixian cupped his fists and said, "I hope third miss can help me with something." The third miss said, "What is it?" Yixian said, "Hit me." Xianxia was very strong, but she couldn't bring herself to be ruthless, and he similarly couldn't bring himself to be ruthless towards Xianxia. Moreover, if both of them showed mercy during sparring, then what was the point of sparring? So he wanted to find someone who could beat him up. Only in this way would he be able to find out where he was lacking. The third miss looked at Yixian. "You want to spar with me?" Yixian nodded, "Yes." The third miss was silent. Yixian asked, "Can I?" The third miss glanced at Yixian. "Why do you suddenly want to spar with me?" Yixian smiled and said, "I just want to improve myself." The third miss nodded, "Okay." Yixian blinked, "You agree?" The third miss said, "Spar with me. Come with me." Saying that, she turned and left. Yixian hesitated for a moment, then followed the third Mississippi. Soon, the third miss brought Yixian to an empty square. Around this square, there were all kinds of array formations stabilizing the space. The third miss looked at Yixian. "How do you want to spar?" Yixian said, "Hit me." Before he could finish his words, the distant third young lady suddenly disappeared. Before Yixian could react, he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Then, his whole body flew backward and finally hit the space barrier. The entire trial square suddenly shook violently. Xianxia, in the distance, Yixian looked a little pained because he felt like his body was falling apart. When did his Dao body become so weak? At this moment, the third miss suddenly appeared in front of him. Yixian was stunned. He was about to speak when the third miss suddenly punched his head. Bang! Yixian's whole body directly hit the ground and slid hundreds of feet away. The moment he stopped, he felt dizzy as if he was going to faint. At this moment, the third miss suddenly appeared in front of him again. Before he could react, the third miss directly grabbed one of his legs and lifted him up. Then she slammed him into the ground. Boom! The ground directly collapsed, turning into a huge pit. But it was not over yet. The third miss suddenly kicked Yixian's abdomen. Bang! Yixian instantly flew more than 100 feet away. Before he landed, the third miss appeared in front of him again and then flew up and kicked him in the abdomen. Bang! Yixian directly flew out and hit the space barrier in the distance. Boom! The surrounding space barrier directly cracked. As soon as Yixian stopped, the third miss appeared in front of him again. Then she directly grabbed one of Yixian's legs and slammed it on the ground. Bang 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 bang. Deep pits directly appeared in the surrounding ground. At this moment, Yixian suddenly wailed. "Stop! Stop!" the third miss said while hitting him. "What? Don't stop? Use force?" "Hey, I will use force." Bang 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 bang, Yixian. Chapter 1496. Just like that, Yixian was beaten for nearly half an hour before he stopped. During this period, Yixian tried to resist. But it was useless. The more he resisted, the worse he was beaten. Every time he wanted to use his sword, it was useless, because as soon as the sword appeared, he would be beaten even worse. The main reason was that he was beaten silly from the beginning. And his Dao body seemed to be useless in front of the third young lady. After the third young lady stopped, she walked to the side, the corners of her mouth slightly raised. It was really comfortable. In fact, she had wanted to beat this guy for a long time. But there was no chance. But she didn't expect that this guy would come to her and ask her to beat him. How could she refuse such a good thing? In the distance, Yi Xian climbed up and looked at the third young lady in the distance. The third young lady turned to look at Yi Xian and said seriously, "How do you feel?" Yi Xian's face was full of black lines. "Third young lady, did you just want to beat me?" The third young lady sneered, "You actually thought that I just wanted to beat you." Yi Xian glanced at the third young lady. "Isn't that the case?" The third young lady walked in front of Yi Xian. "Of course not. The reason why I beat you was to let you understand your current shortcomings. Moreover, you asked me to beat you, you asked me to." Saying that, she pointed to the distant Xianxia. "She can testify." Xianxia, Yi Xian shook his head. He had fallen for this woman's trick. The third young lady suddenly said, "What do you think now?" Yi Xian said lightly, "My thought is to be careful of women." The third young lady, as if thinking of something, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Third young lady, why is my Dao body so vulnerable in front of you?" The third young lady smiled, "Because I also cultivate Dao body. And let me tell you, Dao body doesn't mean invincible. When a person is too strong, they can directly destroy your body. Of course, your physical body is a little special because you have a powerful bloodline. The recovery ability of your bloodline is too abnormal." Although Yi Xian had just been beaten up, his body had more or less recovered, which made her rather depressed. "Third young lady, how strong are you?" Yi Xian asked in a deep voice. He suddenly realized that the woman in front of him was much, much stronger than he had imagined. Even though he hadn't truly fought with his life on the line just now, and he would still be able to fight back if he utilized the sword domain and faith energy. However, he noticed that the three of them hadn't attacked him with the intent to kill. Moreover, he wanted to see if he could resist them without utilizing external forces. The outcome was that he couldn't. The third young lady laughed. "I'm not that strong. I just started cultivating earlier than you." Yi Xian shook his head. "You're too humble." The third young lady smiled. "Unless you have invincible strength, you have to be humble. Being humble will help you live longer." Yi Xian said solemnly. Sister Nian said the same thing. The third young lady laughed. "Fifth dimension Tendo?" Yi Xian nodded his head. The third young lady whispered, "She is an amazing person." Yi Xian smiled. "You know Sister Nian?" The third young lady nodded. "I have investigated her. She is a person of faith. And she was willing to seal her strength for your fifth dimension. She is worthy of respect. Of course, you are also not bad. At least she didn't misjudge you." Yi Xian smiled and then said, "Third young lady, to be honest, there is one thing that I don't understand. You, Dao Lauer, and Dao Lauer are all disciples of the Daoist sect's grand ancestor. So why is there such a big gap between you?" He discovered that the difference in IQ between second young Dao and the third young lady was like heaven and earth. The third young lady shook her head. Second senior brother was also very outstanding. He was able to use Master's Dao scripture to create the dark scripture, which proved his talent. It was power that harmed him. After Master left, the Dao faction was like a group of dragons without a leader. At that time, the Dao faction was the #1 force in the universe. Second senior brother and eldest senior brother were fighting for the position of Dao faction's master. Therefore, the two of them directly fought for this position and the great Dao spirit. Unfortunately, the great Dao spirit did not choose either of them. At this point, she sighed, "At that time, I should have stood up. If I had fought, they would not have been able to compete with me. But I really have no interest in the position of Dao faction's master." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "Third young lady, you have no interest in the position of Dao faction's master, but in the end, you became the Dao faction's master. This life," the third young lady laughed. "Young Master Yi, you also don't seem to have any interest in the master of the fifth dimension." Yi Xian nodded. "However, I will not let go of the fifth dimension." The third young lady chuckled. "This is where I am inferior to you. I was a little selfish at that time. I only wanted to live according to my own ideas. Although this is not wrong, I should not let go of the responsibility that I should bear. Yi Xian suddenly asked, Do you have an eldest senior brother? The third young lady nodded. I contacted him. He is no longer interested in the position of Dao faction's master. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, Third young lady, you are so strong, but you still can't beat that woman? The third young lady looked at Yi Xian. You know? Yi Xian nodded. I know. The third young lady chuckled. The reason why you think I am strong now is because you are still a little weak. Remember, in this world, there is no strongest, only stronger. Yi Xian said, I want to kill her. The third young lady stared at Yi Xian. Are you serious? Yi Xian nodded. The third young lady fell into silence. Yi Xian said, Do you think it's impossible? The third young lady said softly, Young Master Yi, you are a genius. Among the younger generation, there are very few who are better than you. But do you know who you are going to face? She is not from the same generation as you. She has cultivated for tens of thousands of years more than you. Do you know how difficult it is to jump levels and challenge her? Yi Xian smiled. But I can't just wait for death, right? The third young lady nodded. Indeed. Saying that, she sighed softly. Forget it. I don't need to worry about the matters between you two. Since you came to me to spar, let's start now. Yi Xian cupped his fists. Thank you. The third young lady looked at Yi Xian. Make your move against me. Yi Xian said in a deep voice. Third young lady, I will do my best. The third young lady smiled. Come on. Don't worry, I won't be careless. Yi Xian nodded. The next moment he suddenly struck with his sword. Instant kill. This sword was fast to the extreme, but it was still caught by 2 fingers. The third young lady held onto Yi Xian's sword and smiled. Your swordsmanship realm has broken through. Yi Xian nodded, but it doesn't seem to work. The third young lady shook her head. No. As she spoke, she loosened 2 of her fingers. On her 2 fingers, there were 2 traces of blood. The third young lady looked at Yi Xian. If it was before, this sword of yours would not be a threat to me at all. But now, your sword can hurt me. You should know that I have a God-state Daoist body. If it was someone else, this sword of yours would be enough to kill them. Yi Xian was relieved. He almost forgot that the third young lady had a God-state Daoist body. He also had a Daoist body, so he knew how terrifying it was. The third young lady suddenly said, You are more like a swordsman now. Now, your sword does not have so many external enhancements, so it is more pure. This is a good thing. Yi Xian said in a low voice, How can this sword of mine be a threat to you? The third young lady looked at Yi Xian. Your speed must be at least 5 times faster, and your strength must be at least 10 times stronger. Only then can you kill me with 1 strike. You cannot do without either. You have the speed but not the strength. My Daoist body can defend against this sword of yours. You have the strength but not the speed. I can escape before you strike, or I can strike first. Yi Xian said softly, I understand. The third young lady said, Now, you can use your external strength to enhance your swordsmanship. Yi Xian shook his head. No need. Saying that, he suddenly took a step forward, and the sword domain enveloped the third young lady. The next moment, a ray of sword light flashed through the sword domain. The third young lady suddenly punched. Boom! As soon as she punched, the ray of sword light was stopped by her punch. Inside the ray of sword light was Yi Xian's sword. However, Yi Xian's sword stabbed into the third young lady's fist by half an inch. The third young lady suddenly withdrew her fist, but in the next moment, she punched again. Boom! The ray of sword light shattered, and the moment it shattered, a sword silently arrived between the third young lady's eyebrows. However, the sword stopped half an inch away from her eyebrows, because the third young lady had unknowingly grabbed the sword in the ray of sword light. At this moment, in the distance, Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm. In an instant, countless rays of sword light crisscrossed and tore through the sword domain. Chi 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 chi. Tearing sounds resounded, and it made one's scalp go numb. The third young lady slowly closed her eyes. When the sword chi arrived in front of her, she suddenly clenched her right hand, and a powerful fist force suddenly swept out from her body. Life fist. Without burning one's lifespan, it was just the fist force of life fist. However, this fist force directly crushed all of Yi Xian's sword chi. Not only that, but the sword domain was also trembling, and it was almost unable to withstand this force. However, there were several sword wounds all over her body. Yi Xian's sword could already break through her defense, but it was not enough because it was not fatal. The third young lady looked at Yi Xian, slowly loosened her right hand, and then said, "Continue." After a moment of silence, Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm, and the supreme sword appeared in his hand. In the next moment, he directly appeared in front of the third young lady, and suddenly pulled out the sword and slashed down. Sword drawing technique. As the sword slashed out, a powerful force swept down from the top of the third young lady's head. The third young lady suddenly clenched her right hand, and a powerful fist force surged out from her right hand. Boom! Yi Xian was directly shaken back. However, in the next moment, Yi Xian rushed out again. In this way, in the following time, Yi Xian madly sparred with the third young lady every day, practicing the instant kill sword and the sword drawing technique. As for life fist, he could not practice it because to obtain the power of life, he had to burn his lifespan, and he really could not afford to practice it. Under the crazy practice, the power of Yi Xian's instant kill sword and the sword drawing technique also became stronger and stronger. This also made Yi Xian understand that there was no limit, only a higher limit. As for Xianxia, she was no longer in the Dao sect, and she had come to an unknown starry sky. In her hand was the map that Yi Xian gave her. Looking for Miss Ding. Yi Xian knew that if he went to look for her, the mysterious woman would definitely know. Therefore, he cultivated hard in the Dao sect to attract attention and secretly asked Xianxia to look for Miss Ding. Chapter 1497. Xianxia was flying through the starry sky. She knew a little about that mysterious woman from the hallowed grounds, Dao Yi, and she was absolutely the strongest enemy Yi Xian had encountered so far. Just as the third young miss had said, the current Yi Xian couldn't resist that mysterious woman at all. She and Yi Xian weren't from the same generation at all. Moreover, Yi Xian's only bloodline that could pose a slight threat to her had been sealed and suppressed by her. Most importantly, that woman wasn't alone. She was even forming alliances. What the hell was she doing? Yi Xian naturally wouldn't resign himself to death. That woman didn't stop him from cultivating, but she stopped him from looking for Miss Ding. Obviously, that woman was rather afraid of Miss Ding. This time, Xianxia wasn't going alone. Instead, she was bringing Xiao Ta and the sword spirit along. Because Xiao Ta was able to conceal Xianxia's aura, and the sword spirit was naturally there to restrain the gaudy Xiao Ta. Without the sword spirit, Xiao Ta would ascend to the heavens. Xianxia suddenly stopped and opened the map that Yi Xian had given her. After a long time, she transformed into a ray of light and vanished into the starry sky. After the mysterious woman left the hallowed grounds, she arrived in the starry sky, and then she waved her fair hand lightly. The starry sky in front of her was directly torn open, and she walked into the spatial rift. In the next moment, she appeared in an unknown starry sky. She didn't stop, and she continued tearing open the starry sky and leaping through space. Just like that, she stopped after around 4 hours. At this moment, she was in a deathly silent starry sky. There wasn't any aura of life in this starry sky. Moreover, there was a putrid smell everywhere, and it was nauseating. The mysterious woman casually waved her hand, and the putrid smell in the surroundings vanished without a trace. She glanced at the surroundings, and then she transformed into a ray of light and entered a deathly silent starry sky. When she entered the planet, she frowned slightly because this planet was filled with an aura of death and decay. Not only that, but there were also rotting corpses everywhere she looked. The woman in the plain dress floated into the distance. Not long after, she arrived before an ancient city. When she approached the ancient city, a nauseating smell of decay rushed towards her like a tidal wave. There was also the smell of blood mixed in this rotten smell. The mysterious woman looked at the city. The city was filled with densely packed corpses. These corpses had been dead for a long time, but they were all soaked in blood. The blood contained a mysterious power, and it was this mysterious power that allowed these corpses to be preserved. There were at least several million corpses in the entire city. This place was simply a living hell. The mysterious woman spoke softly. The stronger some people are, the lower their limits are. As she spoke, she pressed her fingers together and gestured lightly. A black coffin floated up slowly from within the city. At the very least, the coffin was covered in countless blood-red talismans, and it seemed rather strange. Right at this moment, the coffin suddenly started trembling. A moment later, a savage voice resounded from within it. "Who dares to disturb my cultivation? Are you tired of living?" As soon as the voice resounded, a ray of blood-red light suddenly surged out from within the coffin, and then it shot violently towards the mysterious woman. The mysterious woman waved her hand. Bang! The ray of blood-red light was instantly blasted apart. At the same time, a mysterious force blasted against the coffin. Bang! The coffin instantly shattered apart, and then a man appeared in midair. The man's hair was disheveled, his body was emaciated, and his entire body emanated an extremely unpleasant and rotten smell. The man stared fixedly at the mysterious woman. "Who are you?" The mysterious woman had an emotionless expression on her face. "I'll give you a fortune. Do you want it?" The man laughed coldly. "Give me a fortune? How arrogant of you." The mysterious woman suddenly spread open her right hand, and then she stretched it forward and pressed it down. Bang! In the distance, the man directly smashed down from the sky, and a huge crater appeared on the ground. On the ground, the man looked at the mysterious woman in the distance. At this moment, his eyes became slightly solemn. "Who the hell are you?" The mysterious woman's face was expressionless. "You're the immortal emperor, right?" The man stood up slowly and stared at the mysterious woman. "Who the hell are you?" The mysterious woman smiled. "You slaughtered all the living beings here to make use of the aura of death within their bodies to strengthen yourself, so that you can reach the godly state and control the boundless aura of death, right?" The man clenched his right hand slowly. "So what if I am?" The mysterious woman looked at the man. "Now, I'll give you a chance to help you reach the godly state." The man narrowed his eyes slightly. "Help me reach the godly state?" The mysterious woman smiled. "Yes." The man sneered. "Do you have the ability to do that?" The mysterious woman suddenly slapped him. The man's pupils constricted, and he threw a punch forward. Bang! With a punch, the man was sent flying. When he slammed into the city wall behind him, the ancient city instantly turned into nothingness, and the man's body split open, revealing his internal organs. The man gulped, and he raised his head to look at the mysterious woman in the distance. At this moment, his eyes were no longer solemn, but fearful. He knew that the woman's strength was far beyond his. The mysterious woman said, "Do you believe me now?" The man said in a deep voice, "Who the hell are you?" The mysterious woman shook her head. "Don't ask these meaningless questions. You should ask what I want you to do." The man looked at the mysterious woman. "What do you want me to do?" The mysterious woman smiled. "You're too weak now. You can't do anything." As she spoke, she opened her palm, and an ancient scroll appeared in front of the man. "This can help you reach the godly state, and there's a map in it. Once you reach the godly state, look for me immediately. I'll give you 10 days, it should be enough." The man opened the scroll and glanced at it. Gradually, his expression became extremely solemn. After a while, the man looked at the mysterious woman. "Senior, what do you want me to do?" The mysterious woman smiled. "When the time comes, I'll let you do something to restrain some people. Of course, you might have to pay with your life, or you might not have to do anything. So, you can choose now. If you're not willing, I won't force you. If you're willing, I'll help you reach the godly state." The man said, "I'm willing." The mysterious woman smiled. "Won't you consider it?" The undying emperor looked at the woman. "There's no need to consider it. If I don't break through, I won't be able to live for long." The mysterious woman looked at the undying emperor and smiled. "Indeed." As she spoke, she looked around. "I don't like this place, I'm leaving." Then she turned around and left. The undying emperor suddenly said, "Aren't you afraid that I won't look for you after I reach the godly state?" The mysterious woman didn't even turn her head. "You can try." As she spoke, she disappeared into the horizon. The undying emperor remained silent. No one knew what he was thinking. Taoism. In the training field, Yi Xian sat with his legs crossed, recalling the scene of him sparring with the third lady. He was thinking about his own shortcomings. He had to admit that he had learned a lot from sparring with the third lady. Not only had his insta-kill sword technique and sword drawing technique improved greatly, he had also gained new insights into his life fist. Not far away, the third lady glanced at Yi Xian. In fact, she was a little shocked. Not long ago, Yi Xian was not a threat to her, but now, Yi Xian was a threat to her. If she hadn't cultivated her Dao body to the godly state, it would be hard to say who would win between her and Yi Xian. In other words, if an ordinary godly state expert were to fight against Yi Xian, they would be instantly killed by Yi Xian, because his sword was truly fast enough. The reason why she could suppress Yi Xian was because of her physical body. Her physical body was stronger than Yi Xian's. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stood up. He opened his palm and the supreme sword appeared in his hand. He looked at the third lady in the distance and said, "Let's continue." As he spoke, he was about to draw his sword. At this moment, the third lady shook her head and said, "You have a guest." Yi Xian frowned and said, "That woman?" The third lady shook her head and said, "No." As she spoke, she looked to the right and said, "You guys talk." After saying that, she turned and left. Yi Xian looked at where the third lady was looking. There, the space suddenly split and a shadow floated out. The shadow was blurry and he couldn't tell whether it was a man or a woman. Yi Xian looked at the shadow and asked, "You are?" The shadow said, "The northern wilderness." The voice was blurry and he couldn't tell whether it was a man or a woman. "The northern wilderness." Yi Xian was stunned and said, "What's the matter?" The shadow said, "It's nothing, I just came to see you." "See me?" Yi Xian's expression became slightly strange. He glanced at the shadow and said, "I think you should know the truth of the matter. Am I right?" The shadow said, "That woman wants the northern wilderness to deal with you. What do you think about this?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "If I'm not wrong, she must have given you a treasure or condition that you can't refuse, right?" The shadow said, "Yes." Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "What do you think?" The shadow said, "I want to hear what you think." Yi Xian smiled and said, "My idea is very simple. I will sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight." The shadow didn't say anything. Yi Xian smiled and said, "Sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. You will always be in an invincible position. What do you think?" The shadow said softly, "But the thing she gave me is very tempting." Yi Xian asked, "How tempting?" The shadow said, "It can change the fate of the entire northern wilderness." Yi Xian said, "Only when you are alive can you have a fate." The shadow said softly, "But you are very weak." Yi Xian smiled and said, "Can you see through that mysterious woman?" The shadow said, "I can't." Yi Xian shrugged and said, "She is my aunt, the blood kind." The shadow was silent. Yi Xian said again, "Sir, to tell you the truth, I have a dozen other aunts like her. In the end, this is our family's business. It's not good for you to get involved. Also, what if one day my aunt thinks it through? She won't hit me anymore. At that time, what will you do? At that time, it will be the two of us who will hit you. What do you think?" Then he paused and said, "Although my aunt has always been against me because of some things, I don't hate her at all. Because I know that there are no misunderstandings that can't be solved in a family. After all, she is my aunt. My blood. Blood is thicker than water." The shadow. P.S. Some readers told me to slow down the pace and write in more detail. However, when I slowed down the pace, I was scolded. "Brothers, reading a book is like making a big sword. You can't just start with the climax of the plot. Everything needs to be foreshadowed, which is a process. Just like in a relationship, don't you have to eat first, then watch a movie, and finally? How can you just get straight to the point? Although this process is a bit boring, it must be done. Without this process, how could there be such a thing? Don't you guys think that makes sense? Sorry, I went a bit off topic. In the end, everyone could see that the woman in the plain dress had left and the plot had sped up. Next, watch me launch show off. One more small request: when you scold me, can you be a bit more reserved? My mental endurance is a bit low. Chapter 1498. Blood is thicker than water. The phantom was silent. Although this Yi Xian was bluffing, but it had to be said that what he said was reasonable. This was other people's family matter. If one day this pair of nephew and aunt suddenly stopped fighting and reconciled, at that time, wouldn't they really be in a bad situation? Yi Xian looked at the phantom. Your Excellency, if I were you, I would choose to wait and see, not help anyone, wait until both of us are injured, then you come out to clean up the mess. Isn't that perfect? The phantom said softly, what you said is reasonable. Saying that, his body gradually became illusory. Obviously, he was about to leave. Yi Xian suddenly said, wait. The phantom said, what's the matter? Yi Xian hesitated and then said, I heard that you are from a prehistoric civilization? The phantom nodded, yes. Yi Xian said, can I understand you? The phantom said, understand us? And some nodded quickly. I heard that your cultivation method is somewhat different from ours, is that right? The phantom said, it is indeed not the same, but the essence is not too different. We all obtain great strength through cultivation. Yi Xian quickly asked, do you have a physical cultivation method? The phantom said, yes. Yi Xian blinked. Look at me, look at my physical body. Do you think my physical body can still break through? The phantom looked at Yi Xian and said softly, your physical body is very strong, but there is still a lot of room for improvement. Yi Xian quickly asked, do you have a way to improve my physical body again? The phantom nodded. There is, but why should we help you? Yi Xian thought for a moment, and then said, what do you think of me? The phantom asked, what do you mean in which aspect? Yi Xian said, all aspects. The phantom said, glib, flowery, not what you mean. Yi Xian suddenly said, stop, just say something good. The phantom remained silent. Yi Xian frowned. I don't have any merits in your heart? The phantom said, he has many backers. Yi Xian's face immediately darkened, and he almost went berserk. Yi Xian took a deep breath and pointed to himself. Sir, don't you think I'm very outstanding? It's not an exaggeration to say that an outstanding young man like me should be the very, 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 very rare kind of person in your prehistoric era, right? The figure shook his head. Yi Xian was puzzled. Why are you shaking your head? The figure said, I've existed for hundreds of thousands of years, and in these endless years, I've seen all kinds of people, but I've never seen someone with such thick skin. Or is it that modern humans are all so thick-skinned? Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious man continued, you've said so much because you want us to help you improve your physical body, right? Yi Xian nodded. That's right. The phantom said, why should I help you improve your physical body? Can you give me a reason? Yi Xian thought for a moment, then said, why don't you state your conditions? After a moment of silence, the phantom said, you don't have anything that we want. Yi Xian suddenly said, a favor. The phantom looked at Yi Xian. A favor? Yi Xian smiled and said, yes. Help me and I'll owe you a favor. The phantom said softly, you're trying to get something for nothing. Yi Xian, the phantom suddenly said, okay. Yi Xian was stunned, then said, you agree? The phantom nodded. I agree. Come with me to the Northern Desolate. Yi Xian hesitated, then said, the Northern Desolate? The phantom said, afraid? Yi Xian hurriedly shook his head. With your strength, if you want to kill me, isn't it a piece of cake? Why do you have to trick me to the Northern Desolate? The phantom said, let's go. After that, the space in front of Yi Xian suddenly cracked. Yi Xian hesitated, then looked to the right and cupped his fists. Third young lady, thank you for all this time. After that, he walked into the space crack. The phantom also disappeared. On the other side, the third young lady looked at Yi Xian disappearing in the distance, silent. The Northern Desolate. When Yi Xian came out of the teleportation array, he directly appeared in front of a huge stone tablet. Yi Xian glanced around. This is the Northern Desolate. And not far from him stood a woman. The woman's fingertips flashed with knife light. And behind the saint were Gu Yao and the others. When Yi Xian saw Gu Yao and the others, his expression changed. Behind Gu Yao, there were more than 200 people, these people at least above the immortal state, judging from their aura. And the woman at the head of the group, her strength was unfathomable. This Northern Desolate is so strong. Gu Yao looked at Yi Xian, not particularly friendly. Glancing at them, Yi Xian said with a smile, "Hello, everyone." The saint looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, you want to strengthen your body?" Yi Xian nodded. "Yes." Then he looked at the saint. "How should I address you, young lady?" The saint smiled. "Mu Shi." Yi Xian said, "Miss Mu Shi, where is the senior who brought me here?" Mu Shi smiled. "Young Master Yi, please wait for a moment. The exalted god will appear soon." Yi Xian nodded. "Okay." Then he looked around. It was surrounded by clouds and he could not see far. Mu Shi smiled. "Young Master Yi seems to be a bit curious about the Northern Desolate region." Yi Xian said with a smile, "Indeed. Miss Mu Shi, there is one thing I am very curious about. That is, how are your realms divided?" Then he pointed at Gu Yao. "For example, he should be in the immortal state in our era. What about in your era?" Mu Shi smiled. "The immortal state you speak of is in the Dao scripture system, right?" Yi Xian nodded. "Yes." Mu Shi said, "In our era, he is called the Dao defiant state." Yi Xian frowned. "Dao defiant?" Mu Shi nodded. At his level, he can reverse the death qi in his body and gradually turn it into life qi. This action is equivalent to going against the heavens. Therefore, in our era, he is called the Dao defiant state. He has the ability to reverse the Dao and reverse life and death. Yi Xian asked again, "What about above the Dao defiant state?" Mu Shi smiled. "Eternal." Yi Xian blinked. "Eternal realm?" Mu Shi nodded. At this level, the body is eternal, the soul is eternal, and the spirit is eternal. Of course, the lifespan will still disappear. However, it is possible for an expert of this level to live for hundreds of thousands of years. Of course, the premise is that they are not killed by others or seek their own death. Yi Xian said softly, "Is there anyone who can live forever?" Mu Shi looked at Yi Xian. "No." Yi Xian looked at Mu Shi. "In your era, no one can live forever?" Mu Shi shook her head. "I can tell you that a person, through cultivation, can live for a very, very long time, even millions of years. But up until now, in our recorded history, no one has been able to live forever. Even the gods are limited by their lifespan and are unable to achieve true eternal life." Yi Xian was a little puzzled. Why can't true eternal life be achieved? Mu Shi smiled. "If someone can achieve true eternal life, then there is only one possibility. That is, the current laws of the universe have completely collapsed." Yi Xian was a little curious. "The laws of the universe?" Mu Shi nodded. "According to what we know, there are currently 9 laws of the universe. One of them is the life law. Everyone's lifespan is limited by the life law. No one can live forever. No life can achieve eternal existence. Because once someone lives forever, the universe will be in chaos. Think about it, if a person can't die, wouldn't that be terrifying?" Yi Xian nodded. "That's true." Mu Shi continued. "Some people can go against the Dao. However, no one can go against the laws of the universe. That's not right. At least no one can go against the first 5 laws of the universe. If someone can go against the eternal law, perhaps they can really live forever. However, it is basically impossible." Yi Xian was a little curious. "Why is it impossible?" Mu Shi smiled slightly. "The laws of the universe are existences of a higher level. We're only in contact with the Tao now, but the laws of the universe are existences that surpass the Tao. When she spoke up to hear, she glanced at Yi Xian and said, "Your adversity constitution belongs to a different kind of existence, an extremely different kind of existence." Yi Xian asked, "A different kind of existence? Does it belong to the laws of the universe?" She shook her head. "I'm unable to answer that, because I only know that there are 9 laws of the universe. However, I don't know exactly which 9 laws they are. So, I can't be sure if your adversity constitution is related to the laws of the universe." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he asked, "What if my adversity constitution is really the work of the laws of the universe?" She thought for a long time, and then she said, "Be a good person in your next life." Yi Xian was speechless. Right at this moment, the stone steel behind Yi Xian suddenly trembled, and a voice resounded from within it. She looked at Yi Xian. "Follow me." Yi Xian glanced at the stone steel, and then he said, "What are you, exalted goddess, doing inside?" She said, "It's a secret." "The secret?" Yi Xian was speechless. She suddenly said, "Young Master Yi, I heard that the woman who wanted to beat you up is your aunt?" Yi Xian nodded. "Yes," she said, "she's my aunt." She said, "Since there's an aunt, there must be a grandfather. Why don't you go look for your grandfather?" Yi Xian shrugged. "I think it said that my grandfather was killed by my cheapskate father." She stopped in her tracks and turned to look at Yi Xian. "Killed by your father?" Yi Xian nodded. "That's what they said." She frowned slightly. "Your father killed your father-in-law?" Yi Xian nodded. "Actually, it's hard for me to understand too. However, I heard that my grandfather isn't a good person either." She said softly, "Your family is really amazing." Yi Xian was curious. "Miss Mushi, can your exalted deity defeat that woman?" She shook her head. "I don't know. We'll only know after we fight." Yi Xian said, "Do you have any good suggestions for my current situation?" She thought for a moment, and then she said, "You can ask your aunt if we can spare their lives if they surrender." Yi Xian was speechless. Chapter 1499. Yi Xian glanced at Mushi. This woman's words were quite amusing. Could he not be killed if he surrendered? However, he could ask her when the time came. Before long, Mushi brought Yi Xian to a cloud. Not far from the two of them, there were countless flashes of lightning. It was a pool of lightning. Yi Xian looked at Mushi. "Miss Mushi, are you going to use the heavenly lightning to temper my body?" Mushi shook her head. "Not for you." Yi Xian was a little puzzled. Then, Mushi looked at Yi Xian. "Absorb." Yi Xian was stunned. "Absorb the lightning?" Mushi nodded. She looked at the pool of lightning in the distance. This pool of lightning is the heavenly tribulation lightning of our era. It contains extremely pure lightning power. If you can absorb the lightning elements, your body should be able to break through again. Yi Xian looked at the pool of lightning. Within it, lightning flashed, and the might of the heavens was oppressive. Mushi suddenly said, "Go." Yi Xian hesitated. "Is it dangerous?" Mushi nodded. "Yes." Yi Xian blinked. "What danger?" Mushi said, "It might electrocute you to death." Yi Xian. After a while, Yi Xian didn't ask any more. He walked towards the pool of lightning. The closer he got to the pool of lightning, the stronger the might of the heavenly lightning. Yi Xian stopped and turned to look at Mushi. "Miss Mushi, are you going to absorb it forcefully?" Mushi looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian nodded. "All right." With that, he transformed into a sword light and entered the pool of lightning. Boom. As soon as he entered the pool of lightning, countless bolts of lightning struck Yi Xian. In an instant, Yi Xian became a man of lightning. Was it painful? Yi Xian didn't feel much pain, just a little numb. Meanwhile, She suddenly pointed with her finger, and a ray of white light entered the space between Yi Xian's brows. At the same time, Shi's voice resounded in Yi Xian's mind. "This is a mental cultivation technique. Follow it and you'll be able to absorb the heavenly lightning tribulation in the surroundings into your body, and then convert it into lightning energy to strengthen your body. Yi Xian nodded. A moment later, he began to circulate the mental cultivation method. Gradually, the lightning in his surroundings began to be absorbed by his body. At this moment, he felt warm and comfortable. Yi Xian grinned. This was the first time he felt so comfortable cultivating his physical body. In the past, when he cultivated his physical body, he was in so much pain that he wanted to die. Actually, the main reason was that his physical body was strong enough, which was why he could do it so easily. A moment later, Yi Xian calmed himself down and concentrated on absorbing the tribulation lightning. Mu Shi turned around and left. Mu Shi arrived in front of the stone tablet, and a phantom image appeared on the stone tablet. It was the mysterious exalted deity. Mu Shi said softly, "Exalted deity still chose him." Exalted deity said, "It's not that I chose him, but that we had no choice but to form a good relationship with him." Mu Shi said, "Isn't there still that mysterious woman?" Exalted deity said softly, "Choosing that woman will lead to eternal damnation." Mu Shi said in a low voice, "Exalted deity, did you discover something?" Exalted deity said, "The body of adversity is scarier than I imagined. The fact that that young man could survive until now means that there must be a powerful expert protecting him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to survive until now. And the person who can resist the body of adversity." At this point, she didn't say anything else. Mu Shi said, "That mysterious woman must know how powerful the person behind him is, but she still did it." Exalted deity said, "I don't know. But from the looks of it, this woman is a little crazy. What my clan needs to do is to form a good relationship with that young man, and then wait and see what happens. If the mysterious woman wins, we just won't be able to obtain the mysterious temple of heaven and earth, but our clan can continue to pass on. If the Yi Xian wins, our clan will benefit greatly." Mu Shi nodded. "I understand. But what if that woman wants us to choose a side?" Exalted deity said softly, "Then we will choose Yi Xian." Mu Shi was curious. Exalted deity said, "Do you believe in justice?" Mu Shi shook her head. "Not really. Since ancient times, whoever wins is justice." Exalted deity said softly, "Then you can believe it." Mu Shi was a little curious. "Yi Xian is justice?" Exalted deity said, "Have you seen the five-dimensional universe?" Mu Shi was slightly stunned, then she said softly, "I understand." As she said this, she seemed to have thought of something and frowned. Something is not right. Yi Xian has the body of adversity, and shouldn't he be punished by heaven? But he is like a fish in water in the five-dimensional universe. Not only is he not punished by heaven, but he also has a good relationship with the Tendo of the five-dimensional universe. Most importantly, there are countless heaven and earth spirits in the five-dimensional universe. These heaven and earth spirits actually do not reject him. This is really strange. Not only do they not reject him, I can feel that those heaven and earth spirits and people in the five-dimensional universe respect him like a god. He does not want to be someone with the body of adversity, but someone with the body of kindness. Exalted deity said, "There are two reasons. First, someone is helping him to resist the karma of the body of adversity. Second, he is slowly changing his own fate. Nothing is absolute in this world, even the body of adversity." Mu Shi said in a low voice, "Can this body of adversity really be reversed?" Exalted deity said, "Everything is possible." Mu Shi shook her head. "I am still a little worried about that woman. If we help Yi Xian, I am afraid that she will target us." Exalted deity said after a moment of silence, "If she dares to target my clan will move to the five-dimensional universe and live and die with Yi Xian." Mu Shi looked at exalted deity. "Are you serious?" Exalted deity said, "This woman wants to lead my clan by the nose. How can we let her do as she pleases? If she bullies us too much, then we will all perish together. The reason why my clan has survived until now is not because we are weak. Moreover, it is better to die tragically than to live in humiliation. No matter what era it is, we still need our pride and dignity. If we don't have pride and dignity, what is the point of living? She smiled slightly. I understand. If that woman dares to bully my clan again, we will beat her to death. Even if we cannot defeat her, we will still beat her. Exalted deity said, go and awaken more people. To deal with everything. She nodded. Understood. After saying that, she turned and left. Holy region. Inside the bamboo house, the mysterious woman was reading an ancient book in her hands. She would smile from time to time. At this moment, holy leaders suddenly appeared outside the bamboo house. Holy leader bowed respectfully to the bamboo house. Master, the third lady is here. The mysterious woman put down the ancient book and smiled. Please. Outside the bamboo house, the third lady turned and left. After a while, the third lady walked into the bamboo house. She looked around and said softly, so simple. The mysterious woman smiled. Third lady, please take a seat. The third lady looked at the seat opposite the mysterious woman. There was a teacup on the table. The third lady smiled. Looks like you had a guest before. The mysterious woman nodded. She just left. The third lady sat in front of the mysterious woman. She looked at the ancient book in the mysterious woman's hands. What book is this? The mysterious woman smiled. Refreshing literature. The third lady blinked. Refreshing literature? The mysterious woman nodded and smiled. It's something that makes people feel relaxed and happy. However, this kind of literature has many flaws. For example, the style of writing is worrisome, lacking in content, often digging holes, repeating the same routine, and even contradictory. The third lady asked, just pure refreshing. The mysterious woman nodded. Yes. Refreshing to the end. The third lady looked at the mysterious woman. You actually know how to read this. The mysterious woman placed the ancient book in front of her. She smiled. I'm just a layman. Those literary works are too profound. I can't understand them. Moreover, life is stressful. Reading refreshing literature to relieve boredom is not bad. The third lady smiled. You have a stressful life? The mysterious woman blinked. My enemies are very powerful. For example, that plain-dressed woman. She can kill me with one sword strike. Don't you think I'm stressful? The third lady was speechless. You know that she can kill you with one sword strike. Yet you still target her brother. At this time, the mysterious woman handed the ancient book to the third lady. Do you want to take a look? Maybe it can relieve your worries. The third lady took the ancient book. She opened it and looked at it. After a long time, she frowned and closed the book. The intelligence of the villain in this book is too low. The mysterious woman laughed. It seems that this book is not suitable for you. The third lady thought for a moment and continued to read. After about a quarter of an hour, she shook her head again. It's really hard to understand. The mysterious woman laughed. Actually, I've read quite a lot of refreshing novels. Most of them are the same. For example, leveling up, killing monsters and picking up treasures. Cave Academy's auction. Completing a mission and entering a mystic realm. Changing planes in the immortal world and God world. Excellent talent. Cultivating for a year is equivalent to 10 years. There's an old man in the ring. The third lady was speechless. The mysterious woman picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. Then she smiled. All right. Let's get down to business. Is there something you need from me? The third lady nodded. I just wanted to tell you that young Master Yi came to my Dao sect before. The mysterious woman said, about you sparring with him? The third lady nodded. You're not angry, right? The mysterious woman smiled. You came and told me. I'm not angry. The third lady smiled. Thank you. To be honest, it's hard to survive in the middle of all of you. But I've decided to seal my Dao sect. I won't interfere with anything in the world anymore. The mysterious woman shook her head. That's not necessary. I'm not a heinous person. I won't kill the innocent. I can understand that you want to form a good relationship with him. The third lady looked at the mysterious woman. You don't look like a bad person. If I'm not wrong, you're targeting Yi Xian. No matter if Yi Xian is dead or alive, you'll definitely die, right? The mysterious woman smiled. You're very smart, just like that Miss Nian Nian. The third lady shook her head. It's hard to understand why you're doing this. The mysterious woman smiled. She didn't say anything. At this moment, the sacred leader appeared outside the bamboo house. Master, Yi Xian is in the northern wilderness. The northern wilderness is helping him. The mysterious woman smiled. I've underestimated the northern wilderness. I can't entertain you anymore. I'm going to the northern wilderness. With that, she stood up and left. The third lady suddenly said, perhaps the northern wilderness is the same as me. They just want to form a good relationship with him. The mysterious woman smiled. Let's make a bet. How hard do you think the northern wilderness will be? Third young mistress said in a low voice, what if they insist? The mysterious woman blinked. Do you really think my goal is to win over the Beihuang region? Third young lady was speechless. Peace, I have something to do in my hometown. I might not be able to update 5 to 6 times a day like before. Sorry. Chapter 1500. Beihuang. In the Thunderbolt Pool, Yi Xian was still crazily absorbing the heavenly tribulation lightning. As the energy of the heavenly tribulation lightning entered his body, a faint layer of lightning appeared all over his body. His body felt warm and comfortable. Yi Xian closed his eyes. With his current strength, he could instantly kill some immortal state experts. However, he knew that he still had no chance of winning against that mysterious woman. Not to mention the mysterious woman, he had no chance of winning against an expert of the third young lady's level. Because his sword could not break through the third young lady's body. Unless he combined his life sword and the instant kill sword, together with the power of faith and 4 types of domains. Under such circumstances, he might be able to pose a fatal threat to the third young lady. However, the mysterious woman was even more terrifying than the third young lady. In fact, he was quite speechless. He had finally gotten rid of the Daoists, but he did not expect an even more terrifying enemy to appear. 100 times more terrifying than the Daoists. In any case, Yi Xian was not a person who would sit and wait for death. His top priority now was to improve his body to the immortal state. If his body could reach the immortal state, his overall strength would undergo a qualitative change. Because both the life sword and the instant kill sword required a powerful body. In addition, his sword Dao had a breakthrough and his sword domain had a new breakthrough. As long as his body had a breakthrough, he still had a fighting chance. The only regret was that the insanity demon bloodline had been sealed. Otherwise, his chances of winning would be higher. Thinking of this, he was infuriated. He had fallen into that woman's trap. Although the immortal bloodline was powerful, the insanity demon bloodline focused on offense. Moreover, the bloodline could pose a threat to her, but now, it was gone. Although he had a headache over the insanity demon bloodline, he missed it after losing it. At that moment, Yi Xian suddenly turned around and saw a woman standing not far away. That mysterious woman. The corner of Yi Xian's mouth twitched. Damn it, that woman is here. The mysterious woman looked at Yi Xian and said with a smile, tempering your body with the heavenly tribulation lightning can indeed improve your body. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, what are you trying to do? The mysterious woman blinked. Do you need help? Yi Xian quickly shook his head. The corners of the mysterious woman's mouth lifted slightly. I'll help you. As she spoke, she opened her palm. In her hand was a throbbing bolt of lightning, a dark red bolt of lightning. Seeing this lightning, Yi Xian's eyelids twitched. What kind of lightning is this? The mysterious woman smiled and said, blood-colored heavenly lightning, I obtained it by chance, I will give it to you. After she finished speaking, she flicked her finger, and the crimson bolt of lightning directly entered the pool of lightning. Boom! In an instant, all the lightning within the pool was transformed into nothingness. At the same time, Yi Xian was enveloped by countless bolts of blood-red lightning. Within the lightning pool, Yi Xian's shrill scream suddenly rang out. At this moment, Yi Xian felt as if his entire body was being pierced by thousands of needles. The lightning was currently corroding his body. The mysterious woman smiled and said, "It's just a little pain, just endure it." As she finished speaking, she turned around to look. Not far away stood a woman. The mysterious woman smiled and said, "Actually, I gave the Northern Wilderness tribe a chance, 2 chances. The first was to follow me, the second, you can be like the Daoist faction, not helping each other. Unfortunately, you have no choice." She looked at the mysterious woman and smiled, "You killed dozens of my people just to frame young Master Yi. If this is the chance that you are giving us, then I don't care." The mysterious woman smiled. "You are very strong-willed." She shook her head and smiled, "Are you here to destroy the Northern Wilderness tribe today?" The mysterious woman blinked. "You think I can't do it? You can try." At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out from the stone tablet. The next moment, a shadow suddenly appeared in front of the mysterious woman. The shadow gradually solidified, revealing that it was a woman. The woman was dressed in a long purple dress that reached the ground. A black cloud belt was tied around her waist, accentuating her slender waist. Her silky hair cascaded down her back, domineering but not messy. Especially her pair of phoenix-like eyes, there was a hint of arrogance in the coldness, as if she was looking down on the world. "Exalted goddess." The exalted goddess looked at the mysterious woman. "I've been annoyed by you for a long time." The mysterious woman smiled and said, "Then come and hit me." The exalted goddess opened her palm and in an instant, a bolt of lightning fell from the clouds in the sky. The bolt of lightning landed directly on her palm, using her palm as a support, connecting heaven and earth. Lightning in the palm. In the sky, the mysterious woman smiled. "Are you going to fight?" As she said that, she opened her hands and 2 balls of fire suddenly appeared in her hands. One of the balls of fire was blood red, the other was dark black. The moment the 2 balls of fire appeared, the entire Northern Wilderness world became illusory, then slowly disappeared. The world could not withstand the power of these 2 balls of fire. In the sky, the mysterious woman suddenly fused the 2 balls of fire. Gradually, the 2 balls of fire turned into a flaming sword. This sword, half of it was red fire, the other half was black fire. Not far away, she suddenly said, "Everyone retreat." Hearing Mushi's words, all the elites in the entire Northern Wilderness fled in all directions. Mushi herself had also retreated hundreds of thousands of miles away. In the entire Northern Wilderness, there were only 3 people left. The mysterious woman, the exalted goddess, and Yi Xian. Yi Xian wanted to leave too, but at that moment, he was already entangled by the bolt of lightning and there was no way he could escape. At that moment, the exalted goddess clenched her right hand and floated up. The bolt of lightning in her hand was like a silver snake that swept across the sky towards the mysterious woman. With a cheese sound, the entire world was torn apart. In the sky, the mysterious woman suddenly slashed down with her sword. A wave of fire swept out, turning the entire sky into a sea of fire. The moment the sea of fire came into contact with the bolt of lightning, boom! In the blink of an eye, the entire Northern Wilderness turned pitch black. In this pitch black space, the bolt of lightning and the flames still existed. In the sea of fire, the bolt of lightning danced like a silver snake, tearing everything apart. At that moment, the mysterious woman suddenly raised her sword and slashed at the bolt of lightning. Boom! The bolt of lightning shattered and turned into streaks of lightning that scattered all over the sky. Below, the exalted goddess looked calm. She opened her palm and clenched it. "Gather!" In an instant, the shattered lightning suddenly gathered and returned to its original state. Moreover, the aura it emitted was even stronger than before. The exalted god opened her left hand and closed her eyes slowly. She chanted silently and gradually, thick black clouds appeared in the sky. Then, countless lightning bolts condensed in the thick black clouds. At that moment, the entire sky was filled with flashes of lightning. It was as if doomsday had arrived. The exalted goddess suddenly opened her eyes. In her eyes, there was a flash of lightning. Destroy. As soon as he finished speaking, the bolts of lightning suddenly shot towards the mysterious woman like a tidal wave. In the distance, the mysterious woman held the flaming sword with a faint smile on her face. Is that it? As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly swung her sword. Swoosh! A beam of sword energy pierced through the air. In an instant, those terrifying lightning bolts turned into nothingness. The black hole in the entire northern wasteland realm was shattered again. Countless amounts of dark matter energy exploded. However, the dark matter energy from the explosion was eventually absorbed by Yi Xian, who was far away. Because at that moment, Yi Xian had activated his dark domain. At that moment, he was madly absorbing the dark matter energy. However, he was not having it easy either. This was because the shockwaves from the two women's attacks had landed on him. Even with his Daoist body, it was difficult for him to withstand the power of the two women. Fortunately, he had the immortal bloodline. Otherwise, he would not have been able to withstand it. After the mysterious woman destroyed the lightning bolts with her sword, she suddenly disappeared on the spot. Below, the exalted god suddenly took a step forward and pointed a finger at the tip of the flaming sword. Boom! An invisible force suddenly shook the surroundings. With the two of them as the center, everything within a radius of 1,000,000 miles turned into nothingness. In the distance, Yi Xian's eyes were wide open. His physical body was cracking inch by inch, but very quickly, his physical body began to recover at an extremely fast speed. The immortal bloodline. At that moment, Yi Xian felt the terror of the immortal bloodline. In the distance, the mysterious woman held the exalted goddess's finger and smiled. Telekinesis. How interesting. With that, she held the sword and spun it gently. Boom. The exalted goddess instantly retreated thousands of feet away. However, the moment she stopped, the space between the mysterious woman's eyebrows suddenly split open. Almost at the same time, the crack between her eyebrows returned to normal. However, behind her, a mysterious force spread out, covering a distance of 1,000,000 miles. Wherever this mysterious force passed, everything turned into nothingness. Fortunately, the northern wilderness was a remote area. Apart from the divine city, there were no other forces within a radius of tens of millions of miles. Otherwise, the exalted goddess's mysterious attack would have been enough to destroy hundreds of millions of lives. Seeing that the mysterious woman was unharmed, the exalted goddess's eyes turned serious for the first time. How is this possible? The mysterious woman gently touched her eyebrows and smiled. Is this your strongest attack? It's very strong. Unfortunately, even if this attack was 10 times stronger, it still wouldn't be able to kill me. Do you know why? The exalted goddess looked at the mysterious woman. The power of your bloodline. The mysterious woman nodded and slowly walked towards the exalted goddess. Other than those three, no one can kill me with a single attack. As she spoke, her aura became stronger and stronger, almost multiplying by several times. The exalted goddess said softly, "You didn't use your full strength just now." The mysterious woman smiled. "I used about 30% of my strength." The exalted goddess nodded. "I underestimated you." The mysterious woman smiled. "Don't worry, although I'm not a swordsman, my sword is very fast. I guarantee that you will die painlessly." The exalted goddess looked at the mysterious woman. "Come on." As soon as she finished speaking, a mysterious force quietly gathered in the palm of her right hand. The mysterious woman was about to draw her sword when Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of the exalted goddess. The mysterious woman stopped in her tracks and looked at Yi Xian. She smiled. "Are you going to fight me?" Yi Xian shook his head. "There's still a small gap between us." The mysterious woman laughed. "The small gap? You're so fresh in admitting defeat. You're just like your old man, thick-skinned." Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman. "Are you afraid of Qinghe?" The mysterious woman nodded. Yi Xian said in a low voice, "You can't defeat her." The mysterious woman gently brushed her hair behind her ear with her left hand and smiled. She can beat me up. The exalted goddess was puzzled. Then why are you so against me? Moreover, you're my aunt. I'm not begging for mercy, I just don't understand. Can you explain it to me? The mysterious woman looked at Yi Xian. It has something to do with your mother. It has something to do with you. Yi Xian blinked. Then go and look for my mother. The mysterious woman shook her head. I can't kill your mother. Moreover, she's protected by your old man. I can't do anything to her. Yi Xian jumped up in anger. So you came to look for me? The mysterious woman smiled. I'm a bully. Come and hit me. Yi Xian was so angry he almost died on the spot. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly turned to look at the sky. She smiled. I'll give you face. I won't kill her. With that, she turned and walked away. The exalted goddess seemed to have noticed something. Her eyes narrowed. Woman, what are you doing? The mysterious woman smiled. Since the northern wilderness tribe isn't going to help, I can only choose your enemy. The exalted goddess suddenly tugged at Yi Xian's hand. Stop her. Otherwise, you'll be finished. Yi Xian was speechless. Chapter 1501. Stop her? Yi Xian was speechless. He wanted to stop this woman too. But how could he stop her? He couldn't beat her at all. At this moment, the exalted goddess suddenly said, Do you know what you're doing? The mysterious woman did not stop. She smiled. Of course I do. The exalted goddess looked at the mysterious woman. You might not be able to control the situation. The mysterious woman smiled but did not say anything. Beside the exalted goddess, Yi Xian was curious. What is she doing? The exalted goddess slowly closed her eyes. Doing bad things? Yi Xian asked, What bad things? The exalted goddess looked at Yi Xian. You're still laughing here. Don't you know that you're dead meat? Yi Xian was speechless. Driven by curiosity, Yi Xian followed the mysterious woman. She did not seem to have any intention of hitting him anyway. Even if she did, he would not be able to escape. The exalted goddess followed beside him. Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman. What are you trying to do? The mysterious woman said, You have too many backers. I need to find more helpers or I won't be able to kill you. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before asking, Do you really hate me that much? The mysterious woman nodded. Yi Xian said, Can I spare my life if I surrender? The mysterious woman stopped in her tracks and turned to look at Yi Xian. Spare my life if I surrender? Yi Xian nodded. The mysterious woman shook her head and smiled. Don't be naughty. With that, she continued forward. Soon, she came to an underground well. Everything within a radius of millions of miles had been destroyed during the previous battle. However, this underground well had always been there. Looking at the underground well, the exalted goddess's eyes were extremely solemn. Yi Xian looked at the underground well. There were countless blood-colored talismans drawn on it. Yi Xian turned to look at the exalted goddess. What's inside? The exalted goddess did not speak. The mysterious woman suddenly laughed. There's a very powerful person inside. No, there are many of them. If I'm not wrong, the disappearance of the prehistoric civilization should have something to do with the people in this underground well, right? The exalted god looked at the mysterious woman. How do you know about the prehistoric civilization? The mysterious woman glanced at the exalted god. You are not the only ones who survived from the prehistoric times. The exalted goddess frowned. Who else? The mysterious woman smiled. She did not answer the question. Instead, she walked to the well and opened her palm. A powerful force condensed in her palm. The high god suddenly said, Do you know how terrifying they are? The mysterious woman nodded. To be able to destroy an era, he definitely has some ability. The exalted deity said, In order to seal them, countless experts from the prehistoric era sacrificed their lives. Do you really think you can control everything? The mysterious woman smiled and said, Give it a try. The exalted goddess shook her head. They will not submit to you. The mysterious woman didn't say anything else. She suddenly punched the well. Boom. The seal on the underground well shattered and a terrifying aura shot up into the sky. The moment the aura appeared, the mysterious woman's eyes flashed with surprise. Interesting. The exalted god's expression became even more solemn. Yi Xian's expression was also solemn. This aura was so strong. At this moment, a man in black slowly floated up from the well. The man in black was covered in black chains and there was a blood-red mark between his brows. At this moment, the man in black suddenly opened his eyes. In an instant, the black chains around him shattered but the blood-red mark between his brows did not disappear. The man slowly opened his eyes and his gaze fell on the mysterious woman. "You broke the seal." The mysterious woman nodded. The man smiled. "I allow you to submit to me." The exalted god's expression was a little strange. Yi Xian suddenly walked in front of the mysterious woman and said, "This man seems to be looking down on you." The mysterious woman laughed. "You're asking for a beating." With that, she suddenly disappeared. In the sky, the man's pupils shrank and he raised his arm to block. Boom! The man retreated thousands of feet. After the man stopped, he looked at the mysterious woman next to Yi Xian and grinned. "You've missed a chance to change your fate." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared on the spot. Almost at the same time, the mysterious woman next to Yi Xian threw a punch. Boom! An afterimage retreated rapidly, and this retreat was several tens of thousands of feet. After the man stopped, his body was covered in cracks. The man looked at the mysterious woman in the distance. At this moment, his eyes were solemn. "For you." The mysterious woman took a step forward and arrived directly in front of the man. The man's pupils constricted, and he was about to attack when a hand clamped down on his throat. A powerful force locked down his entire body, causing him to be unable to move. The mysterious woman slowly lifted the man up. She looked at the man and smiled. "Do you understand the situation now?" The man stared at the mysterious woman. "For you." The mysterious woman smiled. "From now on, I'm your master. Do you have any questions?" The man grinned. "My master?" The mysterious woman suddenly clenched her right hand. Boom! The man's body exploded and turned into nothingness. She killed him. Down below, Yi Xian was struck dumb. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman suddenly turned to look at the well and smiled. "Are you testing me with a clone?" Meanwhile, a man walked out from within the well. He was exactly the same as the man from before. A clone. The man who came out first was just a clone. The man looked at the mysterious woman and smiled. "I never expected such an expert like you to exist in this era." The mysterious woman smiled. "Let's get straight to the point. I'll save all of you and you'll follow me for 3 years. Listen to my orders for 3 years. Do you have any questions?" The man looked at the mysterious woman. "What if I don't agree?" The mysterious woman pointed at the man. "Today is the day you die." The man narrowed his eyes and clenched his right hand. At this moment, Yi Xian, who was at the side, suddenly said, "A man can be killed, but not humiliated. Hit her." The man turned to glance at Yi Xian. "Who are you?" Yi Xian blinked and said, "I'm just passing by." The man stared at Yi Xian for a while, and then he suddenly frowned. "The body of adversity." Meanwhile, the mysterious woman suddenly said, "Have you made up your mind?" The man looked at the mysterious woman. "I don't have the habit of kneeling when I'm born." Yi Xian suddenly clapped. "Well done. You have guts." The man glanced at Yi Xian. "Person with the body of adversity, how did you survive until now?" Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "I was lucky." The man was speechless. In the sky, the mysterious woman suddenly opened her palm, and a black box appeared in her hand. The man's pupils constricted when he saw the black box. "The Heaven and Earth Palace." The mysterious woman smiled. "Do you want it?" The man stared at the mysterious woman. "Why is this item in your hands?" The mysterious woman smiled. "That's not the point. The point is that it's in my hands now. If you want it, I can give it to you. However, my condition is the one just now." The man clenched his fists and remained silent. Beside the exalted goddess, Yi Xian suddenly asked softly, "Exalted goddess, what is this item?" The exalted goddess glanced at Yi Xian. "The number one treasure of our era." Yi Xian looked at the man in the distance. "Will he be tempted?" The exalted goddess said calmly, "Definitely." As expected, the man suddenly stretched out his right hand. "Give it to me. I'll listen to your orders for 3 years." The mysterious woman smiled. "I'll give it to you after 3 years." The man frowned and slowly clenched his right hand. The mysterious woman shook her head and smiled. "You can try to snatch it." The man looked at the mysterious woman. After a long time, he slowly loosened his right hand. "What do you want me to do?" The mysterious woman smiled. "Nothing for the time being." As she said that, she looked at the underground well. There were many powerful auras coming out of it. The mysterious woman said, "Let your men stay inside. When I need them, let them out." The man was silent for a moment. "As you wish." As he said that, he gently pressed his right hand in the direction of the underground well. In an instant, the underground well calmed down. The mysterious woman looked at Yi Xian in the distance and smiled. "Goodbye." With that, she turned and left. The man suddenly said, "I want to kill some people." The mysterious woman stopped in her tracks and looked at the exalted goddess in the distance. "Is it them?" The man nodded. The mysterious woman shook her head. "You can't kill them." The man looked at the mysterious woman. "I can do it myself." The mysterious woman smiled. "I said you can't kill them." The man frowned. Just as he was about to speak, a mysterious aura suddenly locked onto him. The man suddenly turned to look at the end of the horizon. He narrowed his eyes. "There are many strong people in this era." The mysterious woman smiled. "There are many more than you think. Also, let me give you a piece of advice. Keep a low profile in this world." With that, she turned and left. The man looked at the end of the horizon. A moment later, he followed the mysterious woman. In a short while, the two disappeared into the horizon. Yi Xian was silent. Damn, this woman called for another strong helper. Until now, he didn't know how many helpers this woman had called for. The exalted goddess looked at the right side of the horizon. After a moment of silence, she looked at Yi Xian. "That man is called Night God. He was the strongest in the prehistoric era. And he, in order to break through, built a super array. He almost sacrificed the people of an entire universe to break through. And the reason why the prehistoric era declined was because of him. His strength was weaker than that mysterious woman, but not by much. Now that they have joined forces." At this point, she didn't say anything else. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian turned to look at the horizon. By this time, Xianxia should have found Miss Ding, right? "This ant is a bit fierce. I can't take it." "Peace, I'm going back to my hometown. I've been too busy recently. There are many things to deal with. The outbreak might be delayed. Please understand. I'm really sorry. I rarely delay my outbreak. I'm not looking for an excuse. I'm really going back to my hometown to deal with things. I know I'll be scolded, but I have no choice. I'm really sorry." Chapter 1502. At the side, exalted God turned to look at the horizon. There, a little girl holding Xiaoyu turned and left. Exalted God pondered. The reason why the mysterious woman stopped was because of that little girl. Exalted God turned to look at Yi Xian. She knew that this guy had someone protecting him. But it was normal. If there was no one, this guy would have been toyed to death. At this moment, Yi Xian walked to the side and sat down with his legs crossed. In an instant, countless thunders and dark matter energy were emitted from his body. Gradually, Yi Xian's aura became stronger. Somewhere in the starry sky, Xianxia suddenly stopped. She looked not far away. In the depths of the starry sky, there was an ancient city. Xianxia came to the city gate. She looked at the top of the gate. There were 3 big words, Goat City. Xianxia frowned, Goat City? After pondering for a moment, she walked in. Inside the city, there were people coming and going. There were cultivators and ordinary people. Soon, Xianxia arrived at a small tavern. As soon as she entered the tavern, a woman in green came to greet her. She smiled. "Miss, this is your first time in Goat City, right?" And Xianxia's eyes flashed with surprise. "How did you know?" The woman in green smiled. "Miss, you look unfamiliar." And Xianxia nodded. "Is Miss Ding here?" The woman in green looked at Xianxia. "Are you looking for Miss Ding?" And Xianxia nodded. The woman in green sized Xianxia up. "Miss, you are?" And Xianxia took out the sword spirit and Xiao. When she saw the sword spirit and Xiaota, the woman in green's eyes suddenly narrowed. "You?" Xiaota suddenly jumped up. "Little Qing, where is Mistress Ding?" Little Qing smiled. "Miss Ding went out." And Xianxia frowned. "Went out?" Little Qing nodded. She looked at Xianxia. "Is there something urgent?" And Xianxia said in a deep voice, "Something very urgent." Little Qing said, "Then I will contact her." And Xianxia nodded. "Thank you." Little Qing took out a talisman and crushed it. Around 15 minutes later, the space in front of her suddenly trembled. After a while, she looked at Xianxia. "She needs 5 days to rush back." And Xianxia shook her head. "It might be a little slow." Qing hesitated for a moment before she said, "Is it something very important?" And Xianxia nodded. Little Qing said solemnly, "Then I'll contact her again." As she spoke, she withdrew another sound transmission talisman and crushed it. After a long time, she looked at Xianxia. 3 days. She'll be back in 3 days. And Xianxia said in a light voice, "Then I'll wait for her here." Little Qing nodded. "All right." Saint Level. When the night god followed the mysterious woman to the sacred region, the night god's expression immediately became solemn. In this place, he sensed many extremely powerful auras. At this moment, a woman appeared beside the mysterious woman. The trees were boundless. Tree Boundless glanced at Night God, then at the mysterious woman. "The passage is open." The mysterious woman nodded. "Let's go." The trees pointed forward lightly, and the space in front of them suddenly split open. The mysterious woman's group of 3 walked in, and it wasn't long before they arrived at a place of nothingness. A woman was sitting cross-legged in this world. The founder of the Daoist path. At this moment, Qing Zhu opened her eyes and turned to look at the mysterious woman. She smiled. "Is something the matter?" The mysterious woman grinned. "Have you considered it?" Qing Zhu shook her head and smiled. "I'm not willing to live on my knees." The mysterious woman smiled. "I'm not asking you to live on your knees. We can work together." Qing Zhu smiled. "I heard that the 5th dimension is very good now?" The mysterious woman nodded. "It's better than when all of you were here." Qing Zhu grinned. "It looks like I didn't misjudge you." The mysterious woman looked at Qing Zhu. "So long as you nod, you can leave this place at any time." Qing Zhu shook her head. "This place is pretty good. I'll stay here." The mysterious woman fell silent for a moment before she said, "I respect your decision." She turned around and left after she finished speaking. In the distance, Qing Zhu slowly closed her eyes, and it was unknown what she was thinking. A short moment later, the mysterious woman's group of 3 returned to the bamboo house. Shu Wubian asked, "You're not going to kill her?" The mysterious woman smiled. "There's no need for that. No matter what, she's a respectable person." Shu Wubian asked in a deep voice, "When are you going to make your move?" The mysterious woman looked at the depths of the starry sky. A moment later, she slowly closed her eyes. "I can't sense her anymore." Shu Wubian asked, "How are you going to kill him?" The mysterious woman smiled. "I've chosen a very good place for him." Shu Wubian was curious. "Where is it?" The mysterious woman smiled but didn't say anything. At this moment, a man suddenly appeared not far away. It was the martial emperor of the ultimate martial realm, Wu Li. At this moment, Wu Li had already reached the god realm. The mysterious woman smiled. "Eternal realm." Wu Li nodded. The mysterious woman smiled. "Faster than I expected." As she spoke, she suddenly looked to the right. Not far away, A powerful aura swept over. In the next moment, a man emitting death chi appeared in front of the four. The Undying Emperor. The Undying Emperor looked at the people beside the mysterious woman, and his expression instantly became solemn. Each of these people was stronger than the previous one. The night god's expression was calm, but he was shocked. Not because of the two people in front of him, but because of the people hiding in the dark. Some of their auras made him feel threatened. There were many experts here. The Undying Emperor looked at the mysterious woman. "I'm here." The mysterious woman nodded. "I'll bring you to a place." After saying that, she gently drew a line with her finger. The space in front of her split open, and the next moment, she walked in. Shu Wubian and the others followed her in. About an hour later, in an unknown starry sky, the space suddenly split open, and a group of people walked out. The mysterious woman was leading them. In the starry sky in front of the mysterious woman and the others, there was a blood-red door. Around the blood-red door were countless blood-red threads. Karma threads. At this moment, the night god suddenly said in a deep voice, "This is the legendary disaster gate." The mysterious woman glanced at the night god and smiled. As expected of the prehistoric era's strongest expert, "You are really knowledgeable." The night god looked at the mysterious woman. "This gate was a legend even in our era. I never thought that it would really exist, and I never thought that you would be able to find it." The mysterious woman smiled. "It came to me on its own." The night god said in a deep voice, "What are you trying to do?" The mysterious woman smiled and looked at the disaster gate. "I heard that one can enter the disaster realm through this gate. Actually, I really want to go in and take a look, but I don't dare." Shu Wubian looked at the mysterious woman. "Even you don't dare?" The mysterious woman said softly, "Apart from those three people, no one else dares to go in. If he goes in, he will die without a doubt. Because the karma on him is not his own. A large part of it comes from his father and sister. And the karma of those two. How terrifying is it? How can he bear it? Moreover, there is a universal law in it." With that, she slowly closed her eyes. "Apart from those three people, anyone else who attacks will die." Shu Wubian said in a deep voice, "Will he go in?" The mysterious woman smiled. "Force him to go in." After she finished speaking, she waved her right hand and put away the door of adversity. She turned her head and smiled. "Let's go to the fifth dimension." Soon, the group disappeared into the starry sky. The northern wilderness. Yi Xian, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes. He stood up and a powerful aura suddenly swept out from his body. Immortal state physique. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes and clenched his fists. At this moment, he felt that his body was filled with power, endless power. At this moment, the exalted god suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. She looked at Yi Xian. "That woman has gone to the fifth dimension." Yi Xian said softly, "She is going to make a move." The exalted god nodded. "That should be the case." With that, Yi Xian chuckled. "What's going to happen is going to happen." With that, he turned into a ray of sword light and disappeared into the horizon. Below, the exalted god slowly closed her eyes. At this moment, Mu Shi appeared beside the exalted god. She looked at the horizon. "Should we help?" The exalted god shook her head. "We can't help anymore." Mu Shi was silent. She knew that the situation was no longer within the northern wilderness control. That woman alone could destroy the northern wilderness. Now, there was the night goddess. The exalted god suddenly said softly, "The world is going to change." Daoist. The third lady, who was sitting cross-legged in the hall, suddenly opened her eyes. After a long time, she said softly, "Is it going to start?" With that, she stood up and walked to the entrance of the hall. She looked in the direction of the fifth dimension. This battle will definitely be exciting. I just don't know how many mysterious experts will appear. The fifth dimension. The mysterious woman and her group appeared in the starry sky of the fifth dimension. The mysterious woman waved her right hand and the door of disaster appeared not far away from her. The moment the door of disaster appeared, the entire fifth dimension was suddenly filled with densely packed blood-red threads. They were all Yixian's karma threads. The mysterious woman looked in the distance. There, a ray of sword light descended. The sword light dissipated and Yixian appeared in front of everyone. The moment Yixian appeared, the surrounding karma threads suddenly trembled. However, they did not rush towards Yixian. Instead, they slowly approached the door of disaster. Yixian looked at the door of disaster. "This is prepared for me?" The mysterious woman nodded and smiled. "Yes. Go in." Yixian shook his head. "I'm not going in." The mysterious woman laughed. "You have to go in even if you don't want to." With that, she glanced at the starry sky and smiled. "Don't hide. Since you're here, then come out. In order to deal with all of you, I've been busy." After a moment of silence, a voice suddenly came from the starry sky. "Do you really have to be so ruthless?" Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. There, a woman slowly walked over. Chapter 1503. She held a halberd in her hand and wore snow-white clothes. The expressions of Night God and the others instantly became solemn when they saw her. The woman who had just appeared was extraordinarily strong. Night God fell silent while she felt extremely shocked in her heart. Are there so many experts in this era? Wu Li had an extremely solemn expression on his face as well. At this moment, he finally understood why she didn't just kill Yixian. The experts behind Yixian are stronger than the last. The mysterious woman gazed at Lady and grinned. "Long time no see, Lady." Lady glanced at the door of misfortune, and then she gazed at the mysterious woman. "What exactly do you intend to do?" The mysterious woman smiled. "It's very obvious." Lady shook her head. "Do we really have to go to such an extent?" She grinned. "It's meaningless to speak of all of that now." Lady pointed her halberd at the mysterious woman. "Then let's fight." "Let's fight." Her voice rumbled like thunder while her imposing aura shot into the sky. The mysterious woman shook her head and smiled. "I'm not your enemy." As soon as she finished speaking, Tree Boundless appeared in front of Lady. Lady gazed at Tree Boundless. "You know Tian Ming's temper." Tree Boundless laughed coldly. "Worse comes to worse than death." Lady nodded. "Then bring it on." As soon as she finished speaking, the halberd in her hand suddenly stabbed forward. The space in front of Tree Boundless split apart as a bone-piercing cold halberd stabbed towards her. A wisp of a cold smile curled up on the corners of Tree Boundless' mouth. She waved her hand, and then countless vines swept out from the space in front of her. In an instant, the halberd was coiled by the vines. Meanwhile, Lady suddenly shook the halberd in her hand. Bang! Countless vines were instantly transformed into pieces while Tree Boundless retreated explosively by 3 kilometers. As soon as she stopped moving, the space behind Tree Boundless shattered into pieces. A ferocious expression flashed through her eyes as she took a step forward, stretched out her right hand, and then made a light gesture. In an instant, countless vines sprayed out from the space around Lady, and they were like numerous pythons that stretched towards Lady. Besides that, a strand of formidable and mysterious energy enveloped Lady, and it was like a cage that firmly locked down the space around Lady. Tree Domain. Within the tree domain, the power of the tree vines increased by several times. Not only that, but the tree domain also had a powerful suppressive force. Lady slowly closed her eyes, and a moment of silence ensued before she took a step forward and stabbed with her halberd. "Halt the blade." As her voice fell, the space around her suddenly became illusory. Following that, the tree vines began to crack inch by inch, and the boundless tree domain also disappeared bit by bit. This tree domain could not withstand the power of her halberd. At this moment, Tree Boundless suddenly disappeared. A green light flashed, tearing through everything. Lady's beautiful brows knit together slightly, and then she suddenly leaped up and slashed down with her halberd. Boom! An expanse of green light suddenly shattered, and then a figure retreated explosively. This retreat was over 10 kilometers away. It was the boundless tree. The mysterious woman below grinned. As expected of lady. As she spoke, she looked at boundless tree. Just hold her back. Tree boundless stared fixedly at lady, and her expression grew even more ferocious. She spread her hands open and said, "Come." As soon as the voice fell, the world below suddenly trembled. After receiving the summons of the tree boundless, countless leaves gathered from the world like a tide. Wherever the leaves passed, the entire space was torn apart inch by inch. The Dao city below was instantly torn to pieces. Fortunately, the people in the Dao city had already been evacuated by the White Emperor. Otherwise, who knew how many people in the Dao city would have died? Everyone here was visibly moved as they gazed at the endless leaves. Lady's expression was calm as she took a step forward, and then she swung her halberd forward. This attack caused the space before her to collapse inch by inch, and so did the countless leaves. However, the leaves seemed as if they were endless, and she couldn't sever them all no matter how hard she tried. However, the leaves were unable to harm Lady as well. Lady had always maintained the upper hand in their battle, but her expression was growing more and more solemn, because a bloody mark had appeared on her palm at an unknown time. Moreover, the bloody mark was getting deeper and more numerous. It was the thread of karma. As soon as these bloody marks appeared, she felt like some sort of force was slowly restraining her. She knew that she had to end the battle as soon as possible. However, even she wasn't able to kill Tree Boundless in a short period of time. The mysterious woman withdrew her gaze, and then she gazed at Yi Xian and smiled. "It's best for you to enter right now. Otherwise, someone will die in a moment." Yi Xian gazed at the door of blood. He felt quite panicked when it appeared here, and he wasn't just panicked, he felt terror as well. It was terror that he couldn't restrain. He'd never had such a feeling in the past. He knew that once he stepped foot into the door, then he would be doomed. The mysterious woman grinned. "If you don't enter, then the entire fifth dimension will be buried with you. Because the calamity of this door is about to form, and your universe won't be able to endure it once it does." Yi Xian gazed at her while he held tightly onto the supreme sword in his right hand. He didn't want to accept his fate just like that. The mysterious woman smiled and said, "I know that your physical body has just broken through, and your strength is several times stronger than before. Furthermore, there's still that life fist. However, I can tell you that even if you burn all of your lifespan, your life fist won't be able to threaten me. Not to mention you, even if the Dao Sect's ancestor is here, his life fist won't be able to do anything to me. If you enter, I'll take this door away without harming the fifth dimension. However, if you resist with all your might and summon the power of faith, then once the calamity is formed, the fifth dimension will be destroyed in an instant. At that time, you won't be the only one to die, but everyone. Calamity, calamity, whoever helps you will be haunted by the calamity. Do you understand?" Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. He didn't want to accept his fate, but he also didn't want to bring everyone around him to die with him. At this moment, a hand suddenly grabbed his hand. Yi Xian opened his eyes and looked beside him. It was Nian Yan. Nian Yan smiled. "It's not the most desperate time yet." Yi Xian was stunned, and then he said, "Sister Nian?" Nian Yan smiled and said, "Yes." Yi Xian smiled and asked, "When did you recover your memories?" Nian Yan licked the candied fruit. "It's been some time. However, due to some reasons I could only seal my memories." Yi Xian asked, "The cause of calamity?" Nian Yan nodded. As she said that, she looked at the mysterious woman in the distance. "You really went big. You even attracted this thing." The mysterious woman looked at Mu Nian and said with a smile, "Miss Nian, you still chose to make a move in the end." Mu Nian laughed. "I didn't want to make a move at first, but I can't just watch you force him to his death like this." As she said that, she put away the candied fruit and said with a smile, "You should have made thorough preparations. Tell me, are you my opponent or someone else?" The mysterious woman smiled and said, "No one else is your match." Mu Nian blinked. "So, let's play? To be honest, I really want to fight you. After all, You're also known to be invincible under 3 swords. To be honest, I'm not convinced. The mysterious woman smiled and said, I also want to fight you. However, you're not my opponent. Nian Nian glanced at the people behind the mysterious woman and said with a smile, they're not my match. Night God suddenly stood up. He looked at Nian Nian and said with a smile, aren't you being a little too arrogant? Nian Nian opened her palm and a sword appeared in her hand. The next moment, she slashed out with her sword. It was a very casual slash. In the distance, Night God's pupils suddenly constricted. He punched out, and space distorted under his punch. Boom! As a sword beam exploded, Night God retreated tens of thousands of feet away. Nian Nian waved the sword in her hand and the corners of her mouth curled up. Is it wrong to say that you're weak? Night God stared at Mu Nian Nian and was about to attack again when the mysterious woman suddenly said, you're not her match. Night God gazed at the mysterious woman, and the mysterious woman smiled, she's the 4th sword of the world. Night God didn't attack again because his right arm had split open, and a powerful strand of sword energy was raging within his body. He had to suppress the remaining sword energy within his body. Mu Nian Nian gazed at the mysterious woman and smiled, if all the people you found are like this, then I'm quite disappointed. The mysterious woman smiled, you can play with the cause of disaster. As soon as she finished speaking, the door of disaster suddenly trembled violently. A moment later, a blood-red bolt of lightning shot out, and its target was Mu Nian Nian. Mu Nian Nian's eyes narrowed slightly as she slashed down with her sword. Boom! An expanse of sword energy shattered, and Mu Nian Nian was blasted back by 3 kilometers. Yi Xian's face sank when he saw this. What exactly is the door of disaster? Mu Nian Nian glanced at the door of misfortune. In the next moment, she suddenly vanished, and a ray of light flashed by. The sword was like a clap of thunder. Before anyone could react, a ray of sword energy slashed down on the door of disaster. Boom! The door of disaster shook violently, and a wave of blood-red light shot out. Rumble! The sword energy shattered, and Mu Nian Nian returned to her original position. The door of disaster was not damaged at all. Around Mu Nian Nian, a dozen or so blood-red threads appeared. These threads were extremely strange. Lines of disaster karma. These lines of disaster karma wrapped around Mu Nian Nian, and she discovered that the vitality in her body was slowly disappearing. Not only that, but the spiritual energy around her was also moving away from her. The entire world was rejecting her. Mu Nian Nian frowned slightly. She was a 5th dimension Tendo. Logically speaking, the spiritual energy of the 5th dimension should not be rejecting her. After all, she was a 5th dimension Tendo. But at this moment, not only was the spiritual energy rejecting her, but even the world was rejecting her. Mu Nian Nian slowly closed her eyes. She opened her palms, and countless rays of sword energy crisscrossed around her. This. Ear-piercing sounds of slicing resounded incessantly around Mu Nian Nian. The space around her had been torn apart and erased, but the lines of disaster karma still existed. However, the lines of disaster karma had become slightly dimmer. The mysterious woman in the distance had a rare trace of seriousness in her eyes when she witnessed this scene. She knew how terrifying the lines of disaster karma were, but Mu Nian Nian's sword was actually able to affect them. Mu Nian Nian frowned deeply when she saw that her sword was unable to slice through the lines of disaster karma. She was just about to attack again when the mysterious woman suddenly said, the more you attack, the more lines of disaster karma there will be, and the faster you'll die. Besides that woman, no one can resist these lines of disaster karma. Mu Nian Nian gazed at the mysterious woman. I thought you would fight me. The mysterious woman smiled. I'm not afraid of you, but I didn't come here today to spar with you. As she spoke, she gazed at Yi Xian. The calamity is about to form. If you don't go in now, then once it forms, the might of the calamity can easily destroy the entire 5th dimension tens of thousands of times. Even Miss Nian Nian won't be able to resist the calamity. Yi Xian gazed at the door of disaster. A blood-red cloud had appeared in the sky above the door of disaster, and countless blood-red strands of lightning were gradually gathering within the cloud. The calamity? Mu Nianyan suddenly said, "You've joined forces with the cause of disaster." The mysterious woman shook her head. "Actually, I don't know what the cause of disaster is. I only know that when I go against Yi Xian, it will secretly help me. I tried to contact it earlier, but I never expected that it would actually respond and bring me this door of disaster." As she spoke, she gazed at Yi Xian and smiled. "It seems that the cause of disaster really wants to kill you. And now, whoever helps you will suffer from the backlash of the cause of disaster." Yi Xian glanced at Mu Nianyan. At this moment, an endless amount of death qi had appeared in Mu Nianyan's body. Not only that, but a lot of turbid qi had also appeared in the fifth dimension. It was unknown where this turbid qi had come from. It was as if it had appeared out of thin air. This turbid qi was slowly corroding the origin of the fifth dimension. The mysterious woman looked at Yi Xian. "Yi Xian, if you don't go in, you will implicate everyone. Anyone related to you, as long as they help you, will die without a doubt. Also, it's best if you don't use the power of faith. Otherwise, everyone in the fifth dimension who believes in you will suffer the calamity." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "I'm only in the Dao realm. Do you have to go so far?" The mysterious woman shook her head. "You have too many helpers. Even if the plain-dressed woman doesn't make a move, I won't be able to defeat the people below if they join hands." Yi Xian looked at the door of disaster. At this moment, Mu Nianyan suddenly pulled Yi Xian's hand. "Don't surrender so easily." Yi Xian shook his head. "I don't want to implicate you, especially you." Mu Nianyan smiled. "Between us, why talk about implicating me? Isn't your problem my problem?" Yi Xian smiled bitterly. "Sister Nian?" At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said, "Yi Xian, you don't have much time left." Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman, and the mysterious woman smiled. "Don't have any delusions. I said before, I am invincible under the 3 swords. Who do you think you are? Are you worthy of being called invincible under the 3 swords?" A voice suddenly came from the distant starry sky. The next moment, the space in the depths of the starry sky cracked, and a powerful aura swept over. P.S. The eruption has been delayed. Big brother, uncle, please be gentle with your scolding. I'm very sorry. Chapter 1504. Another expert had appeared. Night God and the others who stood by the mysterious woman's side turned to look towards the depths of the starry sky. A ray of light suddenly appeared there, and then the entire starry sky was torn apart. A sword instantly arrived above the mysterious woman's head, and then it descended in a straight line. Space shattered inch by inch at the moment the sword descended, and a powerful strand of sword energy shook the starry sky, causing the entire starry sky to crack inch by inch. It was an extremely shocking scene. The mysterious woman laughed with ridicule. "You're still so arrogant." When the sword arrived 30 m away from her head, she suddenly shot into the sky and smashed her fist against it. Sky split punch. The sword shattered and the starry sky was obliterated by a single punch. Meanwhile, another ray of light slashed down. The mysterious woman smashed her fist forward again. Rumble. She instantly retreated explosively by over 3 kilometers in the face of this attack. A woman in a white robe stood where the mysterious woman had been standing just now. The white-robed woman stood there with a sword in hand, and her gaze was icy cold. The expressions of Night God and the others instantly became extremely solemn when they saw the white-robed woman. Another extraordinary expert has arrived. Moreover, it's a swordsman. Night God took a deep glance at Yi Xian who stood nearby. Exactly how many helpers does he have? The white-robed woman turned to look at Yi Xian, and her expression instantly became savage when she saw the blood-red karmic threads that covered Yi Xian's body. She turned to look at the mysterious woman in the distance. That damnable woman. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly vanished. In the instant that the white-robed woman disappeared, Mu Nianyan also disappeared. The two of them had attacked together. It was obvious that they intended to kill the mysterious woman first. Mu Niannian and Tu were the best swordsmen in the world. So, how terrifying would their joint forces be? A cold smile arose on the corners of the mysterious woman's mouth as soon as the two women vanished, and then she took a step forward. The space around her instantly seethed, and then she clenched her right fist tightly before a strand of ghastly green flames swept out from it. A moment of silence ensued before she suddenly smashed her fist forward. Boom! The space around her was set ablaze, and a force capable of destroying heaven and earth instantly devoured the two sword lights. However, in the blink of an eye, she had retreated hundreds of thousands of feet away. When she stopped, there was a deep sword mark between her eyebrows and her throat. However, the two sword scars were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than a breath's time, the two sword scars had disappeared without a trace. The expressions of everyone in the surroundings had become solemn when they witnessed this scene. Yi Xian was also a little shocked. Was the undying bloodline so terrifying? Nian Nian and the white-robed Qing'er's swords couldn't kill her? Was it true that only 3 strikes could kill her in 1 strike? The white-robed woman looked at the mysterious woman without saying anything. No one knew what she was thinking. Mu Niannian suddenly said, "Her bloodline is a little strange." The white-robed woman was expressionless. Undying bloodline. As she spoke, she looked at Yi Xian, the activated mad demon bloodline. "I'm going to use my bloodline to suppress hers." Yi Xian shook his head. "I can't sense the mad demon bloodline anymore." The white-robed woman was slightly puzzled. Why? Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman in the distance. It was sealed by her. When he spoke up to this point, he was slightly angry. This woman had planned this from the very beginning when she first found him. The white-robed woman appeared by Yi Xian's side, and she placed her right hand on Yi Xian's shoulder. After a short moment, she frowned. Mu Niannian asked, "Can it be undone?" The white-robed woman shook her head. "You can't force it. Otherwise, the two bloodlines will clash and he will die." As she spoke, she turned to look at the mysterious woman in the distance. Sealing his bloodline will make it have one less natural enemy. Moreover, it will make it so that the man can't sense his condition. What a good plan. The mysterious woman smiled. "Too, after so many years, you still have such a bad temper." The white-robed woman did not speak any nonsense. She suddenly disappeared. In the distance, the mysterious woman stood in the same place. She did not dodge. In the blink of an eye, the white-robed woman appeared several dozen feet behind her. There was a blood-red sword hole between the mysterious woman's eyebrows. But in the blink of an eye, that blood-red sword hole disappeared. It was directly restored. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's face sank. This woman could not be killed. The mysterious woman suddenly disappeared. In the distance, the white-robed woman suddenly turned around and slashed down with her sword. Bang! Along with the sound of an explosion, a fiery light suddenly erupted in front of the white-robed woman. The white-robed woman retreated several dozen feet. She had just stopped when the space in front of her suddenly split open, and a fist mark came straight at her. The white-robed woman stabbed out with her sword. Bang! The fist mark directly shattered. The white-robed woman retreated several dozen feet. She had just stopped when a flaming fist mark suddenly fell straight down from the top of her head. The white-robed woman's mouth curled into a sinister smile. She held her sword and suddenly soared into the sky. A sword howl reverberated through the starry sky. A strand of dazzling flame and sword energy suddenly exploded in the starry sky, and then powerful sword energy and flames instantly swept through the starry sky. At this moment, the entire starry sky seethed and gradually became illusory. Mu Niannian suddenly vanished on the spot, and then a strand of sword energy tore through the sky. At this moment, she would naturally not allow the white-robed woman to have a fair battle with the mysterious woman. After all, this wasn't a spar. At the instant that Mu Niannian attacked, the door of misfortune suddenly shook violently. In the next moment, a blood-red bolt of divine lightning shot explosively towards Mu Niannian. Mu Nianyan's eyes narrowed slightly, and then she followed up with a slash with her sword. The starry sky was torn apart, and then a ray of sword energy struck the blood-red bolt of divine lightning. Bang! The ray of sword energy shattered, and Mu Nianyan instantly retreated 3 kilometers. However, the blood-red bolt of divine lightning didn't vanish, and it shot straight towards Mu Nianyan. Wherever the blood-red divine lightning passed, space was directly erased. It was obliterated. Everyone in the surroundings was visibly moved when they witnessed this scene. After all, how formidable was the force required to obliterate an expanse of space? Mu Nianyan slowly closed her eyes. When the blood-red bolt of divine lightning arrived in front of her, she suddenly opened her eyes, and then the sword in her hand trembled violently. She took a step forward and slashed with her sword. As soon as her sword descended, an expanse of sword energy slashed directly against the blood-red bolt of divine lightning. Bang! The ray of sword energy forcefully stopped the blood-red bolt of divine lightning on the spot. However, it didn't shatter into pieces. Conversely, the ray of sword energy grew more and more illusory. Mu Nianyan slashed once more, and a ray of sword energy slashed against the blood-red bolt of divine lightning. However, it still didn't vanish. Conversely, her ray of sword energy was instantly devoured. After it devoured Mu Nianyan's ray of sword energy, the bolt of divine lightning suddenly transformed into countless bolts of lightning that shot towards Mu Nianyan. Mu Nianyan's brows knit together slightly. She was just about to attack when over a dozen blood-red threads appeared around her. As soon as these blood-red threads appeared, the vitality within her body instantly vanished at a visible speed. Even her sword energy couldn't resist it. Meanwhile, Yixian appeared in front of Mu Nianyan, and a ferocious expression flashed through his eyes before he slashed with his sword. Rumble! The ray of sword energy was instantly obliterated. At the same time, Yixian was blasted over 10 kilometers away, and his body had even become pitch black. He'd been charred by the lightning. His immortal stage Daoist body was as fragile as a piece of paper under the blood-red divine thunder. If it weren't for his immortal bloodline, his body would have been completely annihilated even if his divine soul didn't perish. However, the blood-red divine lightning still hadn't vanished, and it had arrived in front of Yixian. Yixian's pupils constricted, and he was just about to attack again when Mu Nianyan appeared in front of him. Mu Nianyan took her sword with both hands and slashed it forward. Bang! An expanse of ray of sword energy instantly enveloped the blood-red divine lightning, and it was instantly forced to stop. However, it didn't vanish. Conversely, Mu Nianyan's ray of sword energy was being devoured bit by bit. At this moment, the space around Mu Nianyan had become pitch black. It was death energy. It was an unusual form of death energy, because there were threads of blood-red threads within the death energy. The death energy was gradually corroding Mu Nianyan's body. It wasn't just Mu Nianyan, lady who was fighting Shu Wubian in the distance was surrounded by the death energy as well. Besides that, the entire starry sky was filled with all sorts of muddy energy. As for the layer of clouds in the sky above the door of misfortune, they had turned blood red, and lightning flickered within them. Yixian gazed at the white-robed woman and the mysterious woman. They were still locked in battle, but the white-robed woman wasn't gaining any advantage. Because the mysterious woman really couldn't be killed. Even if the white-robed woman slit her throat with her sword, she still wouldn't die. Presently, both of them could be said to be on par. But if this continued, the mysterious woman would definitely gain the upper hand. Because karmic calamity threads had appeared around the white-robed woman as well, and there were over 100 of them. Yixian suddenly said, "Qing." The white-robed woman suddenly stopped, and then she turned around to gaze at Yixian. "I'm here." Yixian shook his head and walked over to the white-robed woman. When he saw the karmic calamity threads coiling around her, he felt an indescribable pain in his heart. "I'm sorry." The white-robed woman looked straight at Yixian. "I'm here. Nothing will happen. Not unless I die." Yixian was about to speak, but at this moment, countless blood-red bolts of divine lightning suddenly appeared in the sky above the door of misfortune. The mysterious woman suddenly said, "Yi Xian, if you don't go in, the divine lightning will destroy the entire fifth dimension. Whether it's my Qing or Moon Yin, they won't be able to resist it. Not only them, but everyone related to them will die." As she spoke, she glanced at the door of misfortune, and a rare trace of seriousness flashed through her eyes. In fact, the might of the door of misfortune had exceeded her expectations. She couldn't control the door of misfortune at this moment, because even she couldn't resist the tribulation of misfortune. The white-robed woman looked at the mysterious woman and was about to attack again. The mysterious woman smiled, "Too, you can't kill me. If you continue fighting, you'll definitely die. Moreover, haven't you noticed? The more you attack, the stronger the door of misfortune becomes." The white-robed woman looked at the door of misfortune. At this moment, the door of misfortune was emanating an extremely terrifying pressure, and this pressure caused even her heart to palpitate. The door of misfortune was growing stronger and stronger. The white-robed woman slowly closed her eyes. Her right hand tightly clenched the sword in her hand, and the sword trembled as it accumulated power. After a short while, the white-robed woman raised her head and looked towards the depths of the starry sky. She knew that only that woman could resist the door of misfortune. But what about that woman? Wasn't she resisting the cause of misfortune? At this moment, the door of misfortune suddenly trembled violently. In the next moment, the blood-red divine lightning above it became violent, and the entire fifth dimension started to be destroyed inch by inch. The expressions of everyone present changed when they witnessed this scene. Even the mysterious woman's eyes were filled with a solemn expression. She sensed danger. Actually, she was extremely shocked right now. She knew that she'd severely underestimated the cause of misfortune until now. At this moment, she finally understood why the woman in a plain dress had resisted the cause of misfortune for Yi Xian. If the woman in a plain dress hadn't been standing in front of him, then Yi Xian wouldn't have been able to survive even if he had 100 lives. Right at this moment, the blood-red divine lightning above the door of misfortune suddenly spread outwards, and it was about to leave the layer of clouds. Once it left the layer of clouds, then not only would the fifth dimension be instantly destroyed, even Moon Yin and Tu might not be able to survive. The mysterious woman was retreating in the distance. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly gazed at the mysterious woman and smiled, "Since you want me dead so badly, then I'll fulfill your wish." As soon as he finished speaking, he transformed into a ray of light that shot into the door of misfortune. The expressions of Tu and Moon Yin instantly changed drastically when they witnessed this scene. They wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Because Yi Xian was truly too close to the door of misfortune. Just as the two ladies were about to stop him, Yi Xian had already entered the door of adversity. The moment he entered the door of adversity, a beam of golden light suddenly shone from the starry sky. "Holy shit, young master, don't be rash." As soon as the voice resounded, a ray of golden light followed Yi Xian into the door of misfortune. A horrified voice suddenly resounded from within the door of misfortune. "Fuck, let me out." The entire door of misfortune trembled violently, and then the karmic threads of misfortune in the surroundings suddenly surged back into the door of misfortune like tidewater. Besides that, the blood-red divine lightning instantly surged into the door of misfortune as well. The white-robed woman and Moon Yin didn't even hesitate to charge into the door of misfortune. At this moment, they felt as if they'd been struck by lightning. Right when they approached the door of misfortune, it suddenly closed, and then it transformed into a blood-red screen of light that vanished into the starry sky. The white-robed woman's pupils constricted, and she swiftly clawed forward. "Come back." As soon as her voice resounded, an enormous hand suddenly pierced through the starry sky and appeared in the deepest depths of the starry sky. However, the enormous hand had just appeared when it was instantly shattered by a ray of blood-red light. Moreover, the door of misfortune had vanished completely. The white-robed woman's face instantly turned pale when she witnessed this scene. Moon Yin's face was pale as a sheet as well. Meanwhile, two women suddenly walked over from afar. One of them was Xianxia. At this moment, Xianxia seemed as if she'd lost her soul as she walked slowly. There was another woman standing by Xianxia's side. She wore a white dress and wore a veil over her face. The mysterious woman glanced at the veiled woman who just appeared and smiled. "Miss Ding. We're too late. Yi Xian will definitely die, and Tianming will definitely not choose to live alone. All of them will die. We'll all die together." As she spoke, she took a deep breath and seemed extremely pleased. Miss Ding gazed at the mysterious woman. "I did all of this for the sake of avenging my son." The mysterious woman smiled. "Then shouldn't I be avenging him?" Miss Ding looked the mysterious woman in the eyes. "He's my son." The mysterious woman was slightly stunned, and then she roared with laughter. "Miss Ding, that joke isn't funny at all." Miss Ding just gazed at the mysterious woman. "Have you ever seen me joke?" The mysterious woman stared fixedly at Miss Ding. "My son was born at the same time as him, and then the cause of misfortune descended. After that, my dear older sister seized the opportunity while I was unconscious to use my son as a vessel for the misfortune. After that, my son wasn't able to endure the cause of misfortune, and his soul was destroyed. On the other hand, Tianming rushed over to protect her son." Miss Ding suddenly said, "Tianming is protecting her son. Do you know why she's been able to survive for so long? Because Tianming is giving face to her son. Otherwise, does she really think she can scheme against her? While she's playing with her wits, we're still playing with mud. It was only because she was his biological mother that she didn't behead him. Do you understand?" The mysterious woman seemed as if she'd been struck by lightning, and she retreated a few meters. She stared fixedly at Miss Ding while her entire body trembled. Impossible. Impossible. Chapter 1505. Impossible? Miss Ding looked at the mysterious woman with a calm expression. "Do you think there's any point in me lying to you?" The mysterious woman looked at Miss Ding with a ferocious expression and scarlet eyes. "If he really was my son, why didn't you tell me earlier?" Miss Ding looked at the mysterious woman. "Did you give me a chance?" As if she thought of something, the mysterious woman's face instantly turned pale. Miss Ding said, "Back then, when the calamity descended, Tianming blocked it. In order to protect him, I had no choice but to bring him to his father with your sister. But I didn't expect that Tianming didn't tell you the truth." Saying that, she shook her head. "But that's normal. At that time, she disliked everyone, so why would she tell you this?" The mysterious woman slowly closed her eyes, her whole body trembling. "I asked her, and she said that my son's life or death has nothing to do with her." Miss Ding shook her head and sighed. If Tianming had explained back then, this wouldn't have happened. Actually, Tianming's temper was many times better than before. In the past, Tianming looked at everyone as if they were dead. Explain? It was already good enough that she didn't stab you. You still want her to explain to you? You're thinking too much. In this woman's eyes, there was no one else but her brother. Now, because of Yi Xian, Tianming's temper was much better, at least like a normal person. Miss Ding collected her thoughts and looked at the mysterious woman. "I looked for you, but I couldn't find you. I didn't expect you to hide in the dark and make things so big." The mysterious woman suddenly said with a trembling voice, "Since Tianming knew I was taking revenge on you, why didn't she stop me?" No, she wanted to use me to draw out the cause of misfortune." Miss Ding nodded. "The cause of misfortune has always been hidden, so she had no way to attack. But because of you, the cause of misfortune has begun to appear, which is exactly what she wanted. But she never expected that the cause of misfortune would activate the gate of misfortune to kill him. This matter is beyond the capabilities of the few of us." At this moment, the white-robed woman pointed her sword at the mysterious woman. "Where is the gate of misfortune?" The mysterious woman raised her head and looked into the depths of the starry sky. After a long time, a trace of confusion flashed through her eyes. "I can't feel it anymore." The white-robed woman's mouth curled into a savage smile. "I'll kill you." As soon as she finished speaking, she was about to attack, but she was stopped by Miss Ding. Miss Ding looked at Tu's. Miss Tu, the only one who can find the door of disaster now is her. The white-robed woman gripped her sword tightly with her right hand, her expression becoming more and more ferocious. Miss Ding looked at the mysterious woman. "We must find the door of disaster as soon as possible or else," the mysterious woman shook her head. "I can no longer sense the door of disaster." Miss Ding looked at the mysterious woman. "Think of a way." The mysterious woman was silent for a long time. "We can't look for the door of disaster. We have to look for him. Sense him." "Hurry up," Miss Ding asked. "What do you have in mind?" The mysterious woman spoke in a low voice. "When I sealed his crazed devil bloodline earlier, I left my power in his body." As she spoke, her body suddenly soared into the sky. She looked into the depths of the starry sky and spread out her hands. Flames suddenly burned around her. Just like that, after a quarter of an hour, the mysterious woman's pupils suddenly shrank as if she had sensed something. Seeing this scene, Miss Ding and the others' expressions instantly sank. Two stared at the mysterious woman. The mysterious woman looked into the depths of the starry sky and said with a trembling voice, "His life is flowing away at an extremely fast speed." Miss Ding said in a low voice, "Do you know the location of the door of disaster?" The mysterious woman said, "I can only sense a rough direction. Moreover, the door of disaster seems to have brought him to an unknown world." Miss Ding suddenly said, "You, Miss Nian Nian, and Tu chase in that direction. You must catch him. Don't let it bring him too far away, and don't lose him. I will go find his father." As she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Tu stared at the mysterious woman. Her gaze was like a sword, and she wanted to kill. Nian Nian suddenly said, "Let's go." The mysterious woman turned around and looked at Shu Wubian, who was not far away. Shu Wubian looked at the mysterious woman, but did not speak. This was awkward. That Yi Xian was actually this woman's son. The mysterious woman looked at Shu Wubian. "Don't touch the fifth dimension." Shu Wubian said in a low voice, "Okay." The mysterious woman glanced at Night Deity and the others. "You all guard the fifth dimension and wait for my son to return." As she finished speaking, she turned into a flame and disappeared into the ends of the starry sky. Night Deity and the others looked at each other. Mu Nian Nian and Tu also disappeared into the ends of the starry sky. The three women raised their speed to the limit and tore through the starry sky. The mysterious woman in the lead looked at the endless starry sky with bloodshot eyes. "Wait for me. You must wait for me." As the mysterious woman and the others left, the scene suddenly became quiet. After a moment of silence, Night Deity turned around and left. Only now did he understand why the mysterious woman had asked him to keep a low profile. The number of experts in this era was not just an ordinary amount. He really had to keep a low profile. He felt that he had to properly develop himself. Otherwise, his survival would be in danger. Not far away, Princess did not choose to leave. Before Miss Ding left, she had asked her to guard the fifth dimension. Currently, Yi Xian and Mu Nian were not in the fifth dimension, so there needed to be a super expert guarding it. Princess looked at the depths of the starry sky with a trace of worry in her eyes. The door of adversity was so terrifying. Could he resist it? If Yi Xian really died in the door of adversity, then the matter would be really serious. With that woman's temper, no one could survive. Somewhere in the starry sky, Miss Ding was shuttling through the starry sky. Beside her was Xianxia. Miss Ding's expression was also solemn. The might of the door of adversity had greatly exceeded her expectations. It could be said that at present, apart from those three people, basically no one could resist the door of adversity. With Yi Xian's current strength, could he survive if he entered it? If Yi Xian died, what would happen to Tianming? What would happen to the green-robed man? Sigh. Miss Ding sighed softly. When she found out that something was about to happen to Yi Xian, she'd put down everything she was doing and rushed over. But she hadn't expected that she would still be too late. Meanwhile, Xianxia spoke softly, "He'll be fine, right?" Miss Ding looked towards the depths of the starry sky. I hope he's fine. And Lanxiao's face instantly turned pale when she heard this. After an unknown amount of time, Yixian opened his eyes slowly. His expression changed the moment he opened his eyes. At this moment, he was in a blood-red world. Above him was an expanse of blood-red clouds, and boundless lightning flickered within the clouds. Yixian's expression became solemn when he saw this. The door of adversity. He knew that he was within the door of adversity right now. Meanwhile, a voice suddenly resounded by Yixian's side. Young master, we're finished. Yixian was shocked when he heard this, and he turned around to look. Xiaota was hopping around nearby, and he seemed to be very anxious. Yixian blinked. Why did you come in? Xiaota immediately jumped in front of Yixian. I didn't want to come in either. I was sucked in by it. Yixian was speechless. Xiaota suddenly said, Young master, what do we do now? Yixian looked up at the sky. The blood-red lightning was growing more and more violent, and its might was growing stronger and stronger. With his current strength, he wouldn't even be able to withstand a single bolt of blood-colored lightning, let alone so many. Meanwhile, Xiaota said, Young master, I think we have to think of a way to escape. Yixian looked at Xiaota. Can you contact your master? Xiaota shook his head. No, I can't. Everything is blocked here, and my master is very, very far away from here. Even if he's outside, I can't contact him. He couldn't contact the man in green. Yixian said softly, It seems that we can only rely on ourselves. Xiaota was a little excited. Young master, do you have any ideas? Yixian looked around. He couldn't see the end of it, and he could confirm that they were in an unknown world. As if he had thought of something, Yixian suddenly frowned. He looked up at the sky. Why didn't the blood-red lightning attack him? This wasn't normal. Suddenly, the clouds above his head suddenly turned into a strange black vortex. As the black vortex formed, all the blood-red lightning in the sky instantly gathered towards the black vortex. Yixian's frown deepened when he witnessed this scene, and there was a trace of bewilderment in his eyes. What's it trying to do? Xiaota said, Young master, I think it might be about to unleash an ultimate technique. As soon as he finished speaking, an enormous pillar of lightning suddenly emerged from within the vortex. The pillar of lightning was almost 3 kilometers long and over 1 kilometer wide. Along with the appearance of the pillar of lightning, an indescribably formidable pressure instantly swept down from the sky, and the entire heavens and the earth warped at this moment. Xiaota was slightly excited when he witnessed this scene. Young master, look. I wasn't wrong. It really is about to unleash an ultimate technique. Yixian's face darkened. You guessed right. As he spoke, he grabbed Xiaota, and then he transformed into a ray of light that vanished into the distance. At the instant he vanished, the blood-red pillar of lightning above him suddenly pierced through the starry sky. When it appeared once more, it was already over 500 kilometers away above Yixian. At the same time, a strand of formidable pressure directly sealed off the surroundings around Yixian. Yixian stopped moving when he witnessed this scene. He knew that he couldn't escape. He could only resist it head-on. Yixian raised his head to look at the blood-red pillar of lightning. He knew that not to mention his current strength, even if his strength increased by 10 times, it would still be impossible for him to resist this divine lightning. Yixian took a deep breath, and then he turned around to look at Xiaota and smiled. Stay away from me. This thing is only targeting me. Understand? As he spoke, he suddenly clenched his fists tightly. In an instant, a strand of flames appeared around him. He was burning his lifespan. Since he had no way out, then he had to fight to the death. Yixian held his sword in hand as he gazed at the descending enormous pillar of lightning, and he grinned. Isn't it just death? Come on. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly soared into the sky. However, before he could even get close to the pillar of lightning, his body began to crack bit by bit. Although he had the immortal bloodline, the recovery speed of the immortal bloodline couldn't keep up with the speed of his body's destruction. When Yixian arrived at a place 10 zhang away from the pillar of lightning, he held his sword with both hands and slashed upwards. A ray of sword light pierced through the sky. The moment he swung his sword, Yixian felt as if his entire body had been sucked dry. He slowly fell from the sky. At this moment, he only had less than half a year of lifespan left, and he had used up all his strength to swing this sword. This was the most powerful sword he had ever used. In the sky, Yixian slowly fell. He looked at the horizon as his sword light slashed the blood-red pillar of lightning. Boom! The blood-red pillar of lightning shook violently, and his sword light was instantly drowned by the lightning. The blood-red pillar of lightning plunged straight down. Seeing this, Yixian slowly closed his eyes. He had tried his best. He had really tried his best. Not to mention him, even Yan might not be able to resist this thing. Right at this moment, Xiaota, who was beside Yixian, suddenly transformed into a ray of golden light and soared into the sky. Xiaota directly collided with the blood-red pillar of lightning. Boom! A ray of lightning and a blood-red light exploded between heaven and earth. The lightning pillar was actually forced to stop. However, soon, the lightning pillar erupted with a dazzling ray of lightning, and Xiaota was directly pressed down to the ground. At this moment, Xiaota's voice resounded in the sky. "Young lord, hurry up and run. I can't hold on for much longer." A trace of confusion flashed in Yixian's eyes. How could he run? They were in this world now, and it was useless to run anywhere. Thinking of this, Yixian's lips curled into a ferocious smile. He slammed his right hand on the ground, and his entire body soared into the sky, once again slashing at the blood-red pillar of lightning. However, in an instant, Yixian directly fell from the sky, and finally crashed into the ground. As for the golden light around Xiaota, it was slowly being devoured. Xiaota wailed, "Master! Save me! I can't hold on any longer." Below, Yixian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and once again soared into the sky. In the outside world, the door of woe disaster carried a ray of lightning as it continuously pierced through the starry sky. Its speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it passed through countless galaxies. No one knew its destination. At this moment, the door of woe disaster suddenly appeared in the starry sky. As soon as it appeared, a blood-red ray of lightning swept across the starry sky. Wherever the blood-red ray of lightning passed, the space was directly wiped out. In the next moment, it directly disappeared into the deepest part of the starry sky. In some unknown star region, a swordsman in a cloud-white robe was slowly walking in the starry sky. Swordsman looked into the depths of the starry sky and shook his head. In the vast universe, there isn't even a single strong person. How boring! At this moment, the space behind him suddenly split open, and the next moment, a blood door flew out. The door of woe disaster. After the door of woe disaster appeared, a blood-red ray of lightning appeared in the starry sky. Its speed did not decrease, and it headed straight for Swordsman in the distance. It was not looking for Swordsman, but was just passing by. However, this Swordsman just happened to be blocking its path. Seeing the door of woe disaster shooting towards him with a blood-red ray of lightning, a trace of confusion flashed in Swordsman's eyes. What is the meaning of this? P.S. I recommend a book from my hometown, Heaven's Dome. It's a cultivation book, and if you like cultivation books, you can go read it. It already has more than 1 million words, and you can help me collect it. Finally, I ask for tickets. Although I didn't explode, I still ask for tickets. That's right, my skin is so thick. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.